Welcome to the latest TFL board meeting. I just remind colleagues this meeting is being streamed. For those who are not watching this online and want to know where it's been streamed, it's been webcast on the GLA website and on TFL's YouTube channel. And it's very important we do so the public and press can observe the proceedings and decision-making without the need to attend physically. I'll ask colleagues to please speak clearly when presenting items or during the discussion. I think, is anybody joining us online? There's no board members joining online. Usual announcement about fire alarms. Just to remind colleagues, there are no fire drills planned. If the fire alarm sounds, we're asked to leave the building by the nearest exit, which is through that way, then at the front. Seamus is at the back over there. Will guide us to the assembly point at the front of the building. Before we move to the substantive agenda, I've got a couple of announcements, if you bear with me. Firstly, Zoe, members may be aware that Zoe has been appointed, and we congratulate her, as a member of the independent inquiry into grooming gangs, and so has to step down from the board on the 25th of Feb. Zoe's contributed positively and effectively to meetings of the board. Colleagues will also be aware Zoe's a member of the Finance Committee, the People and Remuneration Committee, and played a big role in the Safety and Security Panel, where she, of course, served as chair since it was established. Zoe, on behalf of the board, can I just pass on my gratitude for your input, for the work you've done with officers, particularly, I'm told, outside of the meetings, and we wish you all the best for the future. It's also with great sadness I was teasing as I came in to say end of an era, just to say a few words about Rachel. It's her last meeting of the board before she leaves TFL. I'm incredibly grateful to Rachel for the significant contribution she's made to TFL and previously, colleagues may be aware, at Crossrail, and for the support and clear advice she's given to me. As colleagues will be aware, as Chief Finance Officer, Rachel led TFL to its first ever operating surplus, and we've been around since 2000. And we're on target to repeat this achievement for the third consecutive year. She was, of course, instrumental in securing our long-term capital funding agreement with the DfT as a 4-year deal. When she was CFO of Crossrail and Finance Director of Operations, she also played a critical role in delivering the completion of the Crossrail project within her original cost forecast and opening the Elizabeth line. Rachel's impact will continue to shape TFL, and she leaves, I'm really pleased to say, a really strong and capable finance team. I'm very pleased to share with colleagues that before she enjoys her full retirement, Rachel will join HS2 as interim Chief Finance Officer. The joke writes itself, as they undertake the reset of the programme. Her role will help to strengthen and deepen important relationships between TFL and HS2 as we all work together to achieve better public transport outcomes for London and, as importantly, for the whole of the UK. On behalf of myself, Rachel, and the board, can I thank you for your work and support and wish you the best in the interim role and future retirement. Rachel. As reported at the last meeting, Patrick will succeed Rachel as the Chief Finance Officer from the 14th of February. Rachel and Patrick have, as you'll appreciate and expect, met with the chairs of the Audit and Assurance and the Finance Committee to provide assurance on transition arrangements. I'm sure we'll all help Patrick in the interim, but also going forward as well. Just to remind colleagues about safety, which is paramount at TFL. If members have any safety issues to raise in relation to items in the agenda or within the remit of the board, then please let me know at the start of the item. You can put up your hand or under matters arising. If there are any other safety issues, then please do discuss them with Andrea while you're here today, or the appropriate member of the ExCo team, who are also here as well after the meeting. I'm going to ask Andrea now to give us any apologies for absence. Andrea.
Thank you, Chair. So an apology for lateness has been received from Carolyn Dwyer. The meeting is quorate and all members are attending in person.
Thanks, Andrea. Declarations of interest. Andrea again.
Members' individual register of interests are published on the TFL website and are all up to date. Since the last meeting of the board, there has been 3 updates to members' interests. They are Zoe Billingham, as the chair mentioned, has been appointed to the independent inquiry into the grooming gangs. Arthur Kay is a Professor of Practice at UCL, and Sarah Turnbull has been appointed as Vice Chair of Groundwork Wales. We're not aware of any items on the agenda where a member needs to declare a specific interest and leave the meeting during its discussion, but members are invited to declare any interest that are relevant to any items on the agenda.
If during the course of the meeting, colleagues have any queries and are not sure, just come and have a chat with Andrea. I always advise colleagues, just err on the side of caution, over-declare rather than not declaring. Thanks, Andrea. The minutes of the last board meeting that was held on the 3rd of December, they've been circulated. Are colleagues happy they accurately reflect the last meeting? Great, thanks, colleagues. I'll turn those off as I normally do. I'll then pass over to Andrew. This part of the meeting is really important. It's matters arising. We also have an action list from the last meeting, and really importantly, Andrea shares with us if there's been any use of delegated authority in between. Andrea.
Thank you, Chair. So since the last meeting of the board, there's been no uses of Chair's action. The authority delegated at the last meeting to the Finance Committee was not exercised in relation to approval of the business plan and is on the agenda for this meeting. Since the publication of the papers, the Mayor has directed TFL to implement the March 2026 TFL fares changes that are under his control from the 1st of March 2026. The mayoral decision freezes fares again on TFL buses and trams until the 5th of July and increases fares on the tube and all other rail services in London where tube fares apply by an overall of 6%. TFL fare concessions will be protected and will remain the same. This mayoral direction and decision will be reported to the Finance Committee. Appendix 1 sets out progress against actions agreed at previous meetings and are either completed or on the forward plan. I would also just like to cover that the paper provides an update on board membership. As mentioned, Zoe Billingham will be leaving the board on the 25th of February. The Mayor has appointed Carolyn Dwyer to succeed her as one of 2 members who represent the interests of those from outside Greater London who use railway passenger services operated by TFL. And the board is asked to appoint Ahmed and as Chair of the Safety and Security Panel and Mark Phillips as Vice Chair of the Safety and Security Panel. We've commenced a recruitment process to appoint 2 new members to succeed Zoe and Mark, who will leave the board later this year. And the advert has been published and was published on the 28th of January and is open for a period of 4 weeks. So the board is asked also to delegate authority to the Deputy Chair of TFL in consultation with relevant chairs to appoint those new members when appointed by the Mayor to the relevant committees and panels.
Okay, if there's no comments or questions, I'm asked to ask the board to note the paper and updated actions list. To note that I've appointed Carolyn Dwyer to represent the interests of those from outside Greater London, as Andrea said, to appoint Ahmed as the Chair and Mark as the Vice Chair of the Safety and Security Panel from the 26th of Feb. To note the recruitment process for up to 2 new board members, and to delegate authority to the Deputy Chair of TFL in consultation with the relevant chairs to appoint new members of the committees and panels of the board in due course. Is that agreed by colleagues? Thank you all very much. Andrew, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Commissioner. He circulated a written report, but Andy's going to update us on any other items as well as the highlights of his report. Andy, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. As I normally do, I'd like to begin with an update on safety. As the board knows, safety is absolutely at the heart of everything we do at TFL. And though we continue to make good progress towards our Vision Zero ambition, we can and will always do more. My report includes an overview of notable safety incidents in the period since the last meeting of the board, including the first that occurred on the 4th of November when a passenger unfortunately fell while boarding a Route 85 bus near Putney Heath and subsequently passed away. On the 25th November, a Route 159 bus collided with a pedestrian near Pall Mall. The pedestrian subsequently died from their injuries. In addition, although not in my report, on the 22nd of January, an e-scooter was involved in a collision with a Route 136 bus on Southampton Way. The rider of the e-scooter subsequently died of their injuries, and this will be included in my next report. I know members will join me in expressing our sincerest condolences to the families and friends of those who've been lost. There is support for those affected, and as I've said before, any serious incident is truly devastating, and any death is one too many. All of those incidents are under full investigation. With regards to the safety campaign over the festive period, we normally see an increase in safety incidents, often linked to alcohol consumption. To address this, we always take a specific programme which we launched for our comprehensive safety plan, aimed specifically to mitigate against the impact of intoxication, preventing workplace violence, supporting colleagues in assisting vulnerable colleagues, as well as liaising vulnerable customers, as well as liaising with our external partners at key locations. Measures included upweighting our network-wide customer communication relating to intoxication, as well as targeting hotspots on the network, strengthening messages to be more assertive and transparent of the consequences, rollout of an escalator and stairs safety toolkit to stations. These areas continue to see the greatest number of incidents. Bespoke guidance for our travel ambassadors working at stations serving Winter Wonderland, and continuing our close work with BTP, London Ambulance Service and Business Improvement Districts. Although we're still finalising our review of the data, I'm pleased to share that preliminary results show a significant reduction in customer safety incidents during the 2025 festive period compared to the previous year. Across London Underground, customer injuries linked to intoxication were down 47% compared to the previous year. And overall rail customer injuries linked to intoxication also saw a 47% reduction. Encouragingly, we also saw a 14% reduction in workplace violence incidents in December 2025 compared to the previous year. While there are many factors at play, this does give us confidence in the steps that we've been taking to manage the risks and influence customer behaviours, and clearly we'll continue to focus on this throughout the rest of the year. Christmas was a particularly busy time for the network, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank colleagues across TFL and our partners that kept London moving during the festive period. I got to personally witness their hard work and dedication on New Year's Eve when I visited our 2 network strategic control centres, a number of stations and our event liaison facility, which was used to coordinate the entire New Year's Eve event. Their efforts also ensured that our services remained reliable and safe, even when freezing temperatures for a prolonged period reached the city over the new year. Today, the board will be considering our new draft business plan, which will guide our organisation until 2029-2030. Setting out how we'll continue to deliver a vision for London that encourages public transport usage, active travel and supports new homes and jobs, not just in London but across the wider UK. This plan builds on the huge progress made over the last decade, from launching the Night Tube and the Superloop services to delivering the Elizabeth line and building the largest zero-emission bus fleet in Western Europe. As you'll see, this plan sets out sustained investment in London's vital transport infrastructure, which will improve the customer experience for Londoners and visitors alike. It will also see us increase investment in the vital renewal of our critical assets like stations, lifts and escalators, track, roads, bridges and other types of key infrastructure. It will deliver greater accessibility, including more step-free stations, reduce journey times and improve safety for everyone using our services. This is a very ambitious plan that is the product of the hard work of countless colleagues across TFL and the GLA family, and I'd like to thank everyone who's contributed to its production, including the board, for your contributions and engagement throughout this process. I look forward to continue working together to deliver a transport network that is safe, accessible, reliable and sustainable, and continues to remain the envy of the world. At the end of last year, the Mayor announced plans for our 2026 fares package, after the government made it clear it expected our fares must rise by RPI plus 1% as part of the capital funding deal in the CSR. He also announced plans to use City Hall funding to freeze for the 7th time bus and tram fares until July. This means only Tube and TfL rail fares will increase from next month, with Tube increases within zones 1 to 6 capped at 20% of an increase. Our wide range of concessions, including zip photo cards, the 18-plus student photo card, the 18 to 25 care leavers pass and the 60-plus Oyster London photo card will all remain unchanged, thus providing free or discounted transport for millions of Londoners. The fare changes have been approved through a mayoral decision and will ensure we meet the income assumption of the funding settlement while protecting Londoners on the lowest income. Turning to our network, in really exciting news, the new landmark entrance at Colindale Station opened on Monday, the 22nd of December. The new entrance includes a larger ticket hall and a lift, making it the 94th step-free station on the Tube network, demonstrating our ongoing commitment to make the capital's transport network more accessible. The station upgrade provides a more comfortable and welcoming environment for customers and provides much-needed additional capacity which will support new homes and future-proof the station for the projected increase in demand in the future. Along with Claire, I visited the station on the 23rd December to see it for ourselves and, more importantly, to say thank you to some of the colleagues involved in both its construction and the successful opening, which was on time. Our focus now is to complete the remainder of the project, including installing an enhanced accessible customer toilet, permanent signage, new cycle parking facilities, and letting the station's new retail space. I'm also pleased to share that on the 15th of December, 58 days ahead of target, two-way traffic returned to Lambeth Bridge following southbound closure that had been in place since the 10th of February 2025 as part of major safety and maintenance works. Two-way traffic returned. The scheme has delivered new cycle lanes in both directions, permanent hostile vehicle mitigation, and essential waterproofing and bridge deck repairs, carried out alongside wider upgrades to make the junctions at both ends of the bridge safer for cyclists and pedestrians. On the 24th of January, it was great to see this SL11 Superloop Express bus service launch, which builds on the success of the already transformational Superloop network. The route, which runs between Abbey Wood and North Greenwich via Thamesmead, provides faster, more reliable access to the Elizabeth Line and DLR stations and improved town centre to town centre connections in outer London. It's also a key milestone in supporting thousands of new homes and jobs, unlocking growth and improving sustainable travel in the area, a key mayoral commitment to provide Superloop Express-type bus services while the DLR extension to Thamesmead now gets underway. To celebrate the launch, customers are able to enjoy free travel on the route during its first week of operation. In other news, last week we launched our first ever London network-wide strategy to transform the city's road network, entitled London on the Move. This is an ambitious 5-year plan aimed to cut congestion with a particular focus on our bus network. It will deliver safer, healthier and more efficient journeys for millions of Londoners. The plan includes the rollout of cutting-edge systems and infrastructure, upgrades to optimise traffic flow, building on what is already one of the most technologically advanced road networks in the world, which includes 6,400 automated traffic signal junctions and pedestrian crossings. This is a really exciting plan that will help our road network continue to enable billions of safe journeys every year and is already attracting attention from other cities across the globe. And I'd like in particular to recognise and thank Carl Edelston, our Director of Streets and Network Operations, for his leadership on this programme. I'd also like to give the board an update on how we're improving air quality on the Tube network, a key part of our green strategy. Our ambitious multi-million-pound programme to reduce dust and improve air quality consists of cleaning, monitoring, research and innovation. The air quality on the Tube is monitored every year, and the latest results show that 2025 dust levels have slightly decreased compared to the previous year. The longer-term trend is that average dust levels in our stations are 24% lower than in 2019, while average levels in drivers' cabs are 11% lower in the same time period. We've also commissioned research to help better understand potential health impact related to air quality on the Tube, including 2 studies with Imperial College London. The first of these studies has now been published and did not establish a direct causal relationship between air quality on the Tube and sickness absence from work. A second study focused on the more long-term data is now underway. We want everybody to go home safe and healthy every day, and this is another example of how we're delivering on this ambition. We welcome the conviction of the individual who deliberately blew up a ULEZ camera in southeast London. This was a reckless and extremely dangerous act that could have caused serious harm to many people. My thanks to the Met Police for their investigation and the successful prosecution. ULEZ continues to help Londoners breathe cleaner air, and this individual's actions were simply unacceptable. In the first year of the expanded ULEZ, we saw a 27% decrease in roadside nitrogen dioxide levels across London, and particulate emissions were 31% lower in outer London than they would have been otherwise without the expansion. In December, we announced our intention to award the new London Overground operator contract to First Rail London Limited, a subsidiary of First Group plc. The new contract, with a strong focus on safety, reliability and accessibility, backed by investment in people and technology, begins in May 2026 and will run for up to 8 years. It will see customers and staff benefit from major improvements, including extra capacity on both the Mildmay and Windrush lines. Separately, we also announced the award of a 5-year contract for the provision of cleaning and associated services to Mighty. The contract covers the cleaning of trains, tubes and bus stations, as well as TfL head office locations, the London Transport Museum and waste collection here at City Hall. It will also include a 24/7 dedicated team to address our ongoing challenges with the graffiti across our various fleets. In addition to that, and at the request of the Mayor to build a fairer and more prosperous London for everyone, we are working on a comprehensive pilot to better understand how we could deliver affordable cleaning services in-house. We currently don't specialise in cleaning or facilities management, so the pilot will help build internal expertise while assessing the benefits that outsourcing could deliver. We will work with Mighty and continue to work with our trade union colleagues through the detail, which will include determining scope, locations and success criteria as part of the pilot design. We have undertaken considerable engagement with the RMT on cleaning, and correspondence from them about this matter has been shared with the board in the last day. We'll be responding to that in due course, and a copy of that will be shared with all board members. Since the last board, I had the pleasure, along with Alex, of visiting the London Borough of Lambeth in early December, where I met Council Leader Claire Holland OBE and Councillor Razine Chowdhury. We had a productive discussion around their priorities and how we play a key part in delivering these collectively. Looking ahead, I plan on meeting with other London boroughs throughout this year to continue to build on our working relationships and our shared vision for London. Finally, last week, I joined the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, Rail Minister, Lord Peter Hendy, and Chief Executive of HS2, Mark Wilde, at Old Oak Common Station as they launched the first 1,624-tonne tunnel boring machine, which will excavate the 4.5-mile tunnel to Euston. This marked a significant milestone in the journey towards bringing high-speed services into Euston, which will unlock faster journeys, deliver greater connectivity and support growth in jobs and homes in the heart of the capital. We continue to have active discussions with Department for Transport, HS2 and Network Rail on the development of Euston. Before I draw my opening remarks to a close, it would be amiss if I didn't take this opportunity to say a couple of personal thank yous. No, Rachel, you haven't got away with it yet. Firstly, I'd like to thank Zoe for all of her hard work serving the TfL board, as the Mayor has already said, since you joined in September 2024. It's been a genuine pleasure working alongside you. As a member of the board and as chair of the Safety and Security Panel, you've provided guidance and challenged us to look and think about things differently, which ultimately have had a positive impact on our work. We wish you all the very best for your new appointment and know we can rely on you to continue to be a strong advocate for TfL. We'll endeavour to keep you all informed, as the Mayor has already said, on our progress to recruit new members of the board. So, secondly, as the board knows, this is Rachel's last board meeting and my opportunity to further spare her blushes. It's impossible to list all that she has achieved during her time with us. As the Chair said, she was instrumental in delivering our first ever operating surplus, and her contributions were key towards TfL securing long-term funding. She has definitely left her mark, both on TfL and on London. I've personally had the pleasure of working with Rachel since she rejoined TfL as CFO of Crossrail, and then as a small part-time role, she decided to take on the role as Finance Director, London Underground at the same time, and finally as TfL of CFO. She is and will continue to be a highly valued colleague to us all, both on ExCo and to the wider GLA colleagues, and of course the entire finance family. Rachel, you can and should be incredibly proud of what you have achieved. We have been very fortunate to have been colleagues and, more importantly, friends for some time, so much so we both decided to have our hips replaced in the same year. And I know I speak on behalf of all of us on ExCo and beyond that you are going to be sorely missed, but I know you will make the most of the next endeavour. As you know, we are very fortunate that Patrick is going to be succeeding Rachel, and I'm sure, like me, are looking forward to working with him as our new CFO and will join me in wishing him all the best. But Rachel, we wish you all the very best. There is no doubt you are jumping from the frying pan into at least a temporary fire, but it's great to see the old team being reunited in such an important infrastructure programme for the country. Thank you on behalf of all of us. As you can see, it's been an extremely busy period during this since we last met. Our business as usual continues apace. Our work serving London never stops. And while it's important to reflect on what we have delivered and how we've evolved, we must also look to the future. Last year, we looked back and celebrated our 25th anniversary. But today's meeting has an unequivocally forward-looking remit. With this being the first board meeting of this calendar year, it's also the first of the next 25 years of TFL. And I look forward to continuing collaborating with colleagues to see what we achieve next. I'm extremely optimistic and excited about our business plan and what we can and will achieve for our great city. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. And can I just echo your generous comments? Well deserved for Rachel. If colleagues don't mind, I'll go around the room with questions or comments. It just makes it easy for me to chair, if that's okay with colleagues. We'll start from this end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. And I think I would endorse what Andy said in terms of Rachel's contribution as well from a member's point of view. Rachel, you've always been incredibly accessible to us as members and very transparent in all the dealings in finance. And actually, for some of us who don't count particularly well, making it quite easy to understand the very complex financial arrangements of TFL. So thank you, and we wish you well. And I'd just like to say to Zoe as well, great to have you as a board member. It's been terribly short. I think I said in my text to you when you announced it, gutted, if you're allowed to minute that, Andrea. I think that sums it up on all of us, but we wish you well for the future. A couple of comments and a question, if I may, Chair. Thank you, Andy, for a comprehensive report, as always. Absolutely delighted to see Superloop 11. I was on it the other day. And what struck me about Superloop 11, I think you referred to it in your narrative, was the connectivity, not just with TFL services at North Greenwich, with the Jubilee line, with Elizabeth line, both at Woolwich and at Abbey Wood, but also on the heavy rail sections at places like Charlton as well. That's what struck me particularly, the amount of journey opportunities that opens up. I think it's a fantastic addition to the Superloop service. So thank you. Body-worn cameras we've talked about before, and I know we've talked about SSP. I was in another administration in another place, which will remain nameless, and there were 43% of assaults in that administration where the frontline colleague was not wearing a body-worn camera. And that's in sharp contrast to where we are in TFL, where it's effectively a mandatory part of the PPE that we ask our frontline colleagues to wear. And I was just interested if we know from near misses how much diffusion we're taking of potential assaults and bad behaviour as a result of colleagues wearing a body-worn camera. Because I think that would be an interesting statistic if we've got it, and if we haven't got it, it would be good to dig into it. So thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Looking around, Omid.
I also want to put on record my thanks.
Just put your mic on, please, Omid.
Is that not
on? The red light goes on when it's...
It's on, yeah.
You may need to borrow Jim's or Zoe's. Yeah, Zoe's is working.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to put on record my thanks to Rachel for your incredible support and clarity when explaining more than quite complex, extremely complex financial wizardry to people like me. And I'll also say a big thank you to Zoe as well. Heartbreaking is how I describe losing her. I want to firstly commend Andy, your team and the organisation for the really impressive technical and commercial innovation that's littered throughout the report, actually. I want to call out two things in particular. The first is the power purchase agreements. I think a real great example of commercial innovation, de-risking our energy strategy. The second, I need to read this, the Rail Quantum Inertial Navigation System. And any word with quantum in it just sounds amazing. So, I mean, the fact that we're doing these things, I think I want to put on record and say fantastic to you and the team. My question is about how do we get assurance that we're doing a lot of these pilot activities. How can we get some assurance that we have the capability to scale? So, and obviously, that's where the real impact comes and the kind of sustainability of these things. So I'd be interested in understanding how that's done and what the sort of future thinking is now. Thank you.
Thanks. Annie, if I do groups of three, thanks. Next, after Ahmed, was it Jim? Thanks, Jim. How about you?
Okay, thanks. Is this working? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, question to Andy, but I don't know if Sadiq would like to comment as well. It's going back to the cleaning contract, TFL cleaning contract. Obviously, we've had reports back before today's meeting, but I think it's fair to say that not only the RMT and other transport unions, but I think all unions in London are very disappointed that that contract covers over 2,000 workers, I believe, was outsourced and it's gone to Mighty. I know you talked, Andy, about a pilot project. I don't know if you can expand on that a little bit more. And have we got any sort of timescale, a deadline for implementing any of those recommendations that might come out of that? And what is the role of the RMT? But also, what is the response of Mighty, who've just taken over the contract, to that contract? Are they actually meaningfully engaging with you? Were they aware that this would be part of the contract when they took it over? So a couple of questions there. And you talked about Eddie Dempsey's letter from the RMT. I think all the board members got that last night. It raises a wider concern that the RMT are putting over, that the relationship between TFL and major contracting companies and the culture that's developed. Have you got any views on that? Do you think there's anything that needs to be looked at that? Is there any validity in those comments within that letter? Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I think it's really proper and right for you to raise those concerns, and we'll deal with that in due course. I'll take Andy, you answer them in due course. Feel free to bring in colleagues as and when to answer the questions. Thanks, Jim.
Will do. Thank you, Sadiq. Peter, thank you for... we need to get you out on the bus network even more. You're such a huge advocate for it, so thank you for that.
But can it not just be in the first week when it's free?
Yeah. Indeed. I mean, it's just an example of how Superloop has continued to develop. And when we first talked to the Mayor about it, he was very keen, we were very keen that it's there not only to provide express bus services, but it is there to provide that greater connectivity, not only between transport hubs, but also between hospitals, other key elements of communities as well. And the SA11 is probably one of the best examples of that. Fantastic planning between both Claire and Alex's team in making that happen. And as you know, there are further routes to come over time. I'll probably ask Claire to comment on where we are with workplace violence. As you know, actually under Glyn, when he was interim CEO, he was passionate about making body-worn video mandatory. Claire has absolutely driven that further forward and is passionate, as we all are, around reducing and eliminating workplace violence. Claire reports on it every Tuesday at our weekly exco in terms of how many incidents there have been. And we're also working with government to see how we can perhaps change legislation so that there's a more significant offence against transport workers, which we're aligned with both Network Rail and the Rail Delivery Group on. In fact, we raised it with our Minister yesterday, and we'll see what more we can do to engage with the Home Office, again through the Mayor's Office and others, to see what more we can do, because it is completely unacceptable. BWV is having a really positive impact, but Claire, I don't know if you want to touch on some of the specifics.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Peter. So yes, we, as Andy says, we make it essential kit for our employees, and I know that some train operators are struggling to get to that point. So we've also spoken to train operators to say, would you like to opt in to trial using it as well, which is making a big difference. But what I can tell you is, in terms of physical assaults last year, we saw a 12% reduction across TFL, and we're already at about 6% reduction this year. So not as good as I would like, but it definitely makes a difference. The more the evidence is captured and people are taken to task, the more people are more confident to wear it. I don't have statistics here on near misses, but I do think we can probably draw that out. And also we've got a workplace violence and aggression summit coming up in March. So comparing across organisations, the Met, the BTP, Network Rail, RDG and train operators and ourselves, looking at what more we can do together to pull people together to realise the importance of this. But also conflict avoidance training is so important, and we're rolling that out to all frontline staff. So it's a double thing that you need to do, and obviously we just need to make sure that our people are supported when things happen. But the captured evidence is so important. Thanks, Peter.
And it's worth saying, of course, an awful lot of workplace violence is related to fare evasion and colleagues trying to have a reasonable conversation with somebody who has not paid, and that's why this goes hand in hand with our fare evasion strategy as well. Ahmed, as ever, thank you for being so into the paying attention to what we're saying and doing on the innovation. I'll perhaps ask Alex to talk to that more specifically in terms of how we try and scale it going forward. I think what you've done, though, is pulled out some real examples of where innovation is across the organisation, different elements focusing on different parts of it, because I think naturally people think about innovation in terms of pure technology. The power purchase agreement is a fantastic example between Rachel and Lily and their two teams on how we came up with a really innovative procurement process to find a way to achieve or get towards our net zero ambitions, and at the same time really work with partners across the energy sector to find a different way of doing this. And this hopefully will be the first of bigger and more PPAs over time, because if we're going to green our energy, we have got to do more like that. There's only us and I think Network Rail who've done this in the UK so far. So, and now we've signed it, we're hoping that will engage the market more. So in that context, we think there's real opportunity to scale it across the organisation and potentially even for the wider GLA group as well. Innovation responsibilities, sits with Alex. So Alex, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how we try and scale some of this.
I think it's a very fair challenge, actually, because I think we're blessed with a lot of trials, mainly because our staff want to innovate and try different ways of delivering things. But I think the harder bit is to scale up, and I think you're right to identify that. But I think it's interesting, the previous question on body-worn cameras, that started as a trial, and that's scaled up, and it's proved to be effective in delivering our strategic outcomes and saving money and delivering on a safety. So I think that is something that we have looked at, and we will continue to look at it. A good example of that is the work that Stuart and I are doing on step-free access. Peter and I were just talking about that, we know we need to do more in that space. We know 50% is a stretching target. We also know we need to be more efficient and save money and deliver these schemes at a lower cost, really. So I think we are definitely looking at that, but I think you're right to highlight the challenge of scaling up. But we do look at that, and it's probably worth me having a separate conversation about how we learn lessons from other bodies to do that. But there's a lot of trials out there, and we do scale them up where we need to. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Jim, thank you, as the Mayor said, for raising such an important issue around the cleaning contract. I can absolutely understand why some of the trade unions, particularly the RMT, are disappointed with the outcome. The Mayor has been very clear around his ambition on this. We've got to make sure that we deliver something that's sustainable, affordable, and meets the needs of our network and the organisation. The RMT have been fully engaged in conversations on this subject for a prolonged period of time. The contractor, Mighty, who've been awarded the contract, I have to say their engagement on the pilot and the trial has been excellent. And we'll be working with them and the trade unions over the coming weeks to establish the facts of what the trial will look like. The plan is for that to go live towards the end of the summer. It will need to run for a decent period of time so we can really understand what the potential opportunities are. And we'll keep the board updated on that and the success criteria for that. It's disappointing that the General Secretary decided to write to the board. He hasn't written to me about cleaning once. There is information in that letter that we will clearly respond to in detail. I don't agree with some of it in there, but we'll give the board full sight of our response to that and we'll reply in full. We only received the letter probably about an hour or so before we sent it on to yourselves, so we need to digest that and respond accordingly. But what I do want to reassure the board is, we value the relationship with our trade unions. We've worked very closely with them for a number of years, ever since Fiona and I joined the organisation, and Claire's further enhanced that since her arrival. And we want to have a constructive relationship with them on all issues in the organisation, of which cleaning is one.
I just get a couple of points from me. Just, Peter, I want to add to your comments and astute comments about body-worn videos. I was the mayor that brought them in for our police, biggest rollout of body-worn videos in the world. And what we noticed was it changed the behaviour of people. If they knew you were recording them, it just tempered, particularly on a Saturday night when they'd been tanked up. And I'm hoping it leads to the same, as Claire said, look for the data about de-escalation from people known. A member of staff is recording them is incredibly important. But Claire's point about conflict avoidance is also incredibly important in terms of how we can de-escalate tensions in public transport. And Andy's right to remind us that, unfortunately, every week, one of our team, more than one of our team is at the receiving end of personal injury and abuse, and so it's not acceptable. As we are going to work with the government to try and close that off. And Omid, thanks for your observation about innovation. Just worth reminding colleagues that we often try stuff with the ambition of scaling up. Sometimes it doesn't work. That's the joy of a pilot. We can withdraw. And the power purchase agreement is a really good example of, we realised that we were the biggest buyer of energy in London, and we were a passive customer of the market. What can we change the market? And what Rachel has led on is changing the market by saying we would like a part of the PPA all to be renewable, and we've changed. There are solar panels being put up because we are a power purchase agreement partner, and so we're looking to scale that up in other areas in the GLA family as well. Jim, thanks for raising the really important issue. Just something that I need to say for those watching this is, when I became mayor, I made sure the board was incredibly talented, made up of a diverse set of skills. The two areas I thought we were lacking was somebody from London Council's perspective in terms of speaking for the 32 boroughs who are crucial partners. And so we made sure there's a representative of London Council. And the second was the trade union side. And so I think it's really important to have a worker's voice at the board, because sometimes we can miss out something that is really important to the staff. And I'm a big advocate of the importance of our cleaners. During the pandemic, they kept us going. They risked their personal well-being and their life in keeping public transport going, to get nurses to hospitals, to get doctors to hospitals, to get shopkeepers to their shops. And so I have a huge respect for cleaners. So even though the contract's being run by a private company, I've made sure we support our cleaners in terms of free travel, sickness pay and all that, and all other things. And I'm determined to try and ultimately bring them in-house when we can afford to do so. This pilot's a meaningful pilot. One of the things that Claire and Andy have done with the contractor is make sure that it's a meaningful pilot in terms of having a benchmark we can use going forward. I also need to make this point about the committees, because it's an issue raised in correspondence. It's simply not possible for a board to make every decision on how a £11 billion public sector runs. We have committees where the ExCo team work with members of the board who sometimes support, sometimes challenge professionals, and then the committee reports back at the board meeting, the chair, and what's been agreed at those committee meetings. Sometimes decisions, because of deadlines, have to be made in between committee meetings, not because of a conspiracy or because the chair wants to keep the committee discussing those things, but by necessity, decisions have to be made. It is important, though, you as a board member challenge those here and ask questions, because that gives reassurance to those watching it. So I'm grateful, Jim, for you raising those points. I've asked the Commissioner to respond to the letter from the General Secretary. I've got a huge amount of respect for all our trade unions, the hard work they do representing our workers. But it is right you raised that here, and I'm really pleased you did, Jim. And I'll make sure the Commissioner responds to the Gen Sec, because he's raised what he thinks are legitimate concerns, and it's important for Andy to respond to those and hopefully reassure both the Gen Sec but also the RM2, who do a great job representing some really important members of the TFL family. So thanks, Jim. Thanks, Andy. Any other, Sarah, then Ross. Sarah first.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. And I'm also gutted to be losing Rachel and Zoe, and impressed with the massive challenge they're both taking on next for the country. So thank you very much for your future service, as well as everything we've done together. I've got two questions, if I may. One is on the new overground contract. As a regular user of much of the overground, particularly Mildmay, I'm interested in the idea or challenge of increasing peak time trains when there's been a long-term suffering of lack of reliability on the line. And so I'm just keen to understand a little bit more of how that contract will be managed and where we might see improvements. And I haven't actually used it for 2 months, so if I'm out of date, I'm sorry. And then the second question is around Thamesmead and the SL11. I'm also super hyped to see it. I've been in North Greenwich all morning watching it buzz about, and just I think for members who don't know Thamesmead well, it is the place with the highest concentration of cul-de-sacs in the UK. So it is really, it's designed to be hard to get about Thamesmead, and so it is vital to connect people living there already, and it's vital as we're trying to unlock that land for growth. It's just really fantastic to see that connection made. And I guess I was really excited about, as Peter so well put it, the extra connections that we get not just to our network. And I was just excited to understand who might be able to monitor that and track the changes in travel habits for the people of Thamesmead, because I think the bus will make a lot more difference than just people going from one end of it to the other. Just, yeah, so slightly fangirling it, I think. But yeah, thank you.
We can organise a badge to be sent to you as well, Sarah. I know people.
I would love that.
Yeah. Ross, thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to commend the Commissioner and the wider organisation actually on the breadth and depth of work that's detailed in the report beyond just the operational aspect of delivering a world-class transport service. It is really encouraging to read the proactive steps that are being taken around passenger staff safety, tackling issues around rough sleeping, fare evasion and other things as well that this organisation does to support the wider ecosystem in London. But I'd like to turn to an issue around Go Ahead and their decision to exercise a break clause to their contract around bus operations in southwest London. And despite reassurances from Go Ahead that passengers won't experience a change to the service, there are some bad faith actors that continue to whip up fear that these services will be withdrawn or the frequencies will change, and it is causing some concern, particularly to vulnerable and elderly residents that rely on these bus services. So I just wondered whether there could be some reassurance today at the board meeting that as a result of Go Ahead's decision, there won't be a reduction in frequency, services won't be withdrawn, and provide that reassurance that this isn't an unusual process in business operations. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Anurag? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of points. So, because the letter from the GenSec was sent to the board, I think it's worth saying as well, the Finance Committee 3 to 4 years ago really pushed the executive to be very transparent on procurement, and there's been fantastic work done by the procurement team in actually putting forward a pipeline. And this organization, I think, is unique for an organization this size to actually have a clear visibility of procurements going forward 2 to 3 years, which is absolutely amazing work. So I think some of the points raised in that letter perhaps don't reflect the reality on the ground. So I just wanted to put that on record. And all contracts are challenged by the Finance Committee. That's where the work is done. I sit on the Finance Committee. I've been Vice Chair. So I want to put my own voice on record saying I don't recognize some of the points in that letter. Moving away from that, 2 things. In your report, Commissioner, which is a great report, there was some excellent references around the pay gap data. And again, the work that Fiona's team has done for an organization of this size to actually be able to slice and dice its data is absolutely superb. So I did want to give a shout out to your team, because I don't think people sometimes recognize the amount of work that goes into producing the headline. The question I have is around the strategic workforce review, and the Mayor gave an excellent speech, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, on how quickly AI-related tools, and there's a bit of hype there, but there's truth in just how productivity enhancement these tools are becoming, and how they're revolutionizing, especially white-collar work. And my question was, given the pace of change, how are you going to make sure, Fiona, that we actually reflect some of those in our ongoing strategic workforce review? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anurag. And are you okay for me to respond to those 3, please? Sure. And bring in the team as and when.
Yeah, of course. I'll also put Fiona on notice for Anurag and Claire for a couple of things. Let me deal, Sarah, first with Thamesmead and wider travel benefits, and Alex will probably come to on this. So part of the reason we were successful in making the case to government around Thamesmead was because the amount of information and data we have around travel habits in that part of South East London, clearly further improved by the Elizabeth line and the information we had from that. So there's a whole raft of information about the volume of further education, people who've gone through further education who live in that part of the world but are now using the Elizabeth line to work in West London or west of London that previously they couldn't do because there was no, the journey was horrendous, and now they can get there direct. The first part of what we do on Thamesmead will be, as we, things like Superloop 11, but as we put the rapid bus transit in, will enable us to demonstrate where there are flows and where there are opportunities. And then, of course, we made a raft of assumptions in terms of the actual case for the DLR extension and how financing and funding will be done around future revenue and future passenger growth based on the predicted housing, the predicted jobs. So that all gets covered, as you know, in the Travel in London report and then through wider analysis. But I don't know, Alex, if there's anything further you want to talk about how we'll monitor that.
No, it's a really good point, actually, because I get regular reports on ridership for each of the Superloop routes. But I think the Thamesmead route in SL11 is particularly important because it's a stepping stone for the DLR to Thamesmead project. And we are in the process of developing the Transport and Works Act order application, which will come to this board later this year. And that will have a lot of detailed evidence on the, as Andy said, the scale of housing growth that unlocks the pace of it. But I do think you raise a good point about us understanding the interchange opportunities. So I'll take that away with my team, actually, because I think that might be an important part of the case for the DLR scheme in the longer term as well, actually, as well as short term. So you've highlighted the gap in what I need to understand there, so thank you.
Thanks, Alex. On overground contract, thank you for being such a strong advocate for the overground. It is one of the best performing railways in the country. We do have some particular challenges because of interaction with freight trains, ongoing conversations with Network Rail around investment in the infrastructure. But I'll ask Claire to just give an overview of, firstly, our first focus is how we transition from Arriva, who currently run the service and done a really good job for us, to First Rail, and then some of the service improvements that are planned and how that will be implemented.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Sarah. So as part of the May 26 timetable, there's going to be an uplift on the Clapham Junction to Shepherd's Bush in the peaks, Monday to Friday. But you rightly point out that the Mild Bay line is challenged. So there is freight growth on the line. We have seen issues with infrastructure failures. So we had a workshop most recently with Network Rail to look at how we, with TFL, the operator, Network Rail and freight companies, can make that system work. It's about response to incidents, it's about the correct investment, but it's also about how we work better together. So I'm really hopeful that with a new operator coming in with some new thinking around this, we can work together to make sure that when disruption happens, we react to it quickly, but also we work closely. If one person fails, we all fail, and I think that's the point, that businesses need to work together. So there's a new regional director for the Anglia route in Network Rail that's just come in, who's bringing all those routes together. So as TFL, we want to make sure that we are front and centre of thinking, and we've already had that commitment. So I'm hopeful that we'll see a better improved performance on that line.
Thanks, Claire. And coming back to you on Ross's point, I mean, it is part of every bus contract that there is an opportunity from year 4 for a contract to be terminated and renegotiated. It's quite normal. It's happened quite a lot over the last 2 or 3 years because of the economic situation. But Claire, do you want to just talk through that and reassure where we can around we're not expecting any routes to be removed or significantly reduced?
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Ross. So yes, as Andy says, at year 4 in a 7-year contract, there's a mutual opportunity to have a break. So we have seen more operators breaking at that point, and then we just retender it. So there's an 8-month period where they continue to operate whilst the retender happens. So for the routes that you're talking about, we have already done the retender. And actually, we've already got bids back in, or getting the bids back in from the existing operator, and we will have other operators, I'm sure. So it's not uncommon. It is because the costs have gone up over the last 3 to 4 years for the operators, and it's an opportunity for them to reset those. But obviously, moving forward as an organisation, we need to find a way to make the bus subsidy lower. So we're looking at ways that we can do things differently. But for now, nothing to be concerned about. The routes will not be withdrawn. There will be operators for those routes, and the customer should see no difference.
Thanks, Claire. And as the board knows, and undoubtedly we'll probably touch on in the business plan section, there's a whole work stream in our business plan around how we're going to reimagine how we operate buses, the commercial model, how we continue to improve the customer experience, how we improve journey time. So there's a huge focus, because we've also got to reduce the operating subsidy that is continuing to grow. So that's a huge focus that is pan TFL, but Claire is leading around the Exco. Anurag, thank you very much for your comments around Finance Committee and recognising the work that, again, Rachel initiated, and I have to say Patrick has really had a huge impact on in his relatively short role as Director of Procurement and Supply Chain, but a huge impact. And as you say, we have a clear pipeline that the committee sees in terms of contracts that are up across the organisation. As you know, a huge spend with a huge supply chain that covers a raft of different elements. So thank you for that. And on the pay gap data, thank you for recognising that work. It's a huge piece of work undertaken by Fiona's team. And again, the strategic workforce plan, which is Fiona's initiative, is now being delivered across the organisation. So Fiona, do you want to give a further update?
Yeah, thanks, Anurag. And we're taking an update to the People and Rem Committee in February, and then a further one in June. So anyone's welcome to join that. I think one of the things, particularly when it comes to AI, that is one of the themes, or technology and technological skills, is something that has come up from every chief officer's strategic workforce plan. So that is something that we're going to look at holistically. I think that there is a bit of, well, what does it mean? Are we going to, will organisations get rid of entry-level roles? I'm not sure that will happen. And I think societally we need to think very, very carefully about how we make sure we've got the skills for the future. So for us, it will certainly be about augmenting how people work as opposed to elimination. What I would say is we continue to be one of the key employers retaining and recruiting young talent. So we've just launched our grad and apprenticeship programmes again. We had over 12,000 applications for our graduate schemes. We've got 156 positions. And in 1 week of launching our apprenticeship schemes, we've had over 10,000 applications. So we know that it's really important to give young people good work, and that's something that we're going to maintain. So I think there's a lot of steps to go. I think our underpinning tech architecture isn't enabled to be able to really springboard us quickly through an AI revolution. And that's something that we're working on as well collectively, about how do we make sure that what we do bring in is safe, it's well used, but it enables people to do their jobs to the best of their ability.
Let's just give my tuppence worth, Anurag. I think we've progressed from the unknown when it comes to AI to the unknown known. I think none of us knows how AI will impact the future of the workforce in London. For example, one of the things that Rachel does with the team is they use the OBR forecast to work out fares income. As you observed 6 months ago, it's possible to have an increase in growth and not equate to more people using public transport because of AI, working from home and other reasons as well. So one of the things we're looking into as the GLA is having a commission to look at the future of work in London, because of the sectors, as you've observed, where we're really doing well, could be adversely affected by AI, professional services, finance, legal, and so forth. And secondly, how we get Londoners match fit for AI. Free training is incredibly important, so we have that just transition. But I think this team is well versed with what we need to do, I think, to get ready. And it's really important that we carry on as a board, work with the Exco team to make sure we are fleet-footed when it comes to the benefits and disbenefits of AI. Can I just respond also to Ross's really important point, and it's linked to Sarah's. Firstly, Sarah, I'm quite keen to get people using our services who weren't previously using our services, because it makes Rachel and Patrick happy. We also keep an eye on whether people are transferring from TFL services to the Superloop. So these guys are on top of, they know where migration is taking place, and obviously the bigger win is migration from a non-TFL service to a TFL service and so forth. So they keep an eye on that, but I think it makes the case for the DLR extension, as does the Baker Loop for the Baker Line extension. And the team are working with the Treasury, MHCLG and DFT about future innovative funding models, like we had for the Elizabeth Line, the Northern Line extension and so forth. But Ross, thank you very much for raising a really important issue. One of the things that we are trying to do is to improve public transport thanks to your lobbying in Outer London. Public transport actually in central London is fantastic. In London is very good. Outer London, where historically it's been not great, which is one of the reasons why people drive in Outer London more than they otherwise would. And people have less confidence in our buses because of issues around frequency and so forth. But just to reassure those who are mischief makers or are scaremongering, because of your assiduous lobbying, we're going to make sure that there isn't a reduction in frequency. There won't be services withdrawn, and I'll make sure Claire keeps you abreast of developments in relation to the interim period to make sure nobody's feeling worried about their regular bus not being available and stuff. And it's really important to reassure, particularly those in Outer London who use our buses, this is not unusual. It happens all the time and stuff. So I'm really sorry your residents have been scared by mischief makers and stuff, and Claire will make sure they reassure them in relation to the future being good. Thanks, Ross. Any other questions or comments? Thanks. We'll take Deborah, then Mike, and then Arthur, then Murray. Okay, that order.
Thank you, Chair. I too would like to just extend my thanks to two people, two women on this board that are leaving us. I feel particularly gutted with Rachel going, as she was my exec buddy when I joined. So I'm hoping that my exec buddy will continue to be someone out of the finance team, although with his height he won't have to wear stacked heels, and I will be referring to him as New Rachel. So I'm really pleased to have... and of course, Zoe, it almost gives me cause to pause the fact that you join the TFL board and then you go on to such frightfully important work for the nation. So I just want to thank you again for the time that we've spent. I hope I've got both of your personal numbers, but I promise I won't call you after 7. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments, if I may, Chair, about the cleaning contract. I'm a member of both the Finance Committee and I'm a member of the Finance Committee, where I'm currently the Vice Chair, and I just wanted to echo what Anurag has said. I too received and read the letter from the RMT this morning. I didn't recognise the commentary about the Finance Committee being very heavily led by officers. What I do recognise is the fact that we do have a number of officers who come in with their number 1 and number 2 come in. It is not an easy ride by any shape or form, and I don't feel handled. If anyone tried to handle me, they'd find it would be a very different committee. The one thing I do want to just reiterate to the board under both chairs that I've served since I joined in 24 is the conversation around working with staff who are primarily in that level of work. They are lower paid, but they're also quite diverse, ethnically diverse. And as an organisation that has, as you said, an £11 billion organisation, if we are not able to flex our muscles to truly embrace some of the challenges that London has in terms of supporting EDI in its truest form and not doing it as a here. We've got Bob Marley playing in the lift over October, but actually embedding it into what we do, then I'd be seriously concerned about being a member of this board or the committee. So I was extremely heartened to hear about the pilot. I am very keen for not just the Finance Committee or any other committee, but also for the board to have a line of sight over the pilot, how the pilot is developing. And I would be very keen for us to, as you said, flex the muscle to do things in an innovative way. I've heard your commitment to bringing our cleaning services in-house. What people failed to ignore is the rest of that sentence, which is when it is economically sustainable to do so. It would be foolhardy to do so, especially in the straitened financial circumstances that we find ourselves. But I know that we're going to be going at pace, and there will be a clarity that will be demanded from all the committees and then provided not as reassurance but as assurance to the board as that goes forward. And that's going to be a personal commitment for as long as I remain a member of those committees. The second thing I wanted to say, and it's probably just a governance point, about the letter that was received. It was written to the board. I am fully on board with people with the detailed understanding, like the Commissioner, providing the majority of the text, but I'd just be keen for Andrea to weigh in on, if it's written to the board, it needs to be responded to by the board. If it's written on behalf of the board, then I'd like that to be shown. But as the tone was talking about officers speaking and making decisions, I just want us to be really clear that any letter that comes out in response to that is being written on behalf of the board. So whoever the signature is, I know the board should get sight of it before it leaves. Second, and then I'd just like to ask two questions. So on violence against women and girls, I acknowledge the initiatives and the fact that we've been re-accredited in 2025. I'd be interested to hear Andy's thoughts on how TFL can go upstream to engage with organisations that are working with younger groups, especially younger men. I think the idea of dealing with the issues as they stand is one thing, but I think it's very powerful to go and try to nip the problem in the bud where we can. We're talking about not reducing but eradicating violence against women and girls. And then my second comment is just to welcome the consolidation of the safety and incident reporting data. I think I'd be interested to understand how we'd be able to apply technology in a more proactive and preventative way as we engage with the information of what's gone past. So I'd be interested to hear, if not here, then in the future, how that flow through of using the innovative use of technology to be able to provide a flow through to the reporting that goes to the committees as to how we're able to use that consolidated data to analyse and then hopefully address some of the hotspots that we find. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike, thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. A few brief points, and I'm finished with a question. I won't repeat what others have said about Rachel, but endorse it. Would particularly want to add my thanks to her for her support and welcome to me as a new board member and incoming finance chair. It's been invaluable. On technology and innovation, Ahmed raised the power purchase agreements. I just think they're a really good example of ambition and innovation from the team, but also a really good example of how complex procurement can be, and having had some involvement in this in previous lives, that the energy market is probably one of the most difficult things to procure. And I think we had a fairly detailed briefing on it at the last Finance Committee, and I was reassured by the knowledge and skill that the team demonstrated in talking about both the current piece of work, but also the ambition to roll that out going forward. And I think a real opportunity to leverage some of the benefits of scale that TFL has, but it also demonstrated as I say, the complexity, and I'm sure certainly I and Finance Committee colleagues, I'm sure, look forward to continuing to be involved in that. And, I speak for myself here. I'm sure it will take some time to get up to the level of knowledge and skill that the team bring, but we're well supported in that. So welcome that piece of work. And then finally, on technology, TFL Go, again, welcome the update in the report on the further innovation on that. As someone who has a unique ability to get lost coming out of complex stations, having the increased functionality on journeys and exits is really, really useful. But just interested to hear what the further ambition is on that and further plans for development. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Arthur, did you have a question? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. At the last meeting, I raised the point around the driverless cars coming to London and TfL and the GLA having a prompt and proactive response to that and really trying to shape the strategy rather than being reactive to it. As we look at the kind of current action plan, and I guess the point to Alex and to Andy and to the chair about this as well, is at the moment it talks about not getting an update until autumn 2026, and that update being reported into CSOP. The way that, as I understand it currently, is that trials are due to start in April, and then I believe that one operator, Waymo, who's owned by Alphabet, actually claims that they'll be operating a commercial service by September. So if we get an update in autumn, it kind of slightly defeats the purpose of getting an update. So, I mean, maybe stating the obvious a bit here, but given the pace of some of the technological and regulatory and commercial developments in this space, I think it'd be really good to take a much more proactive, as a kind of, I guess, repeating my point, like the last board meeting, take a much more proactive approach to this, probably to update the safety and security panel, considering that this is, I think the GLA's own report in January, as in last month, talks about the massive gaps that still exist in cyber security and big question marks still over safety for Londoners in terms of that as well. So I'd welcome perhaps it's probably for Ahmed as the new chair to accept this, but probably a report into safety and security panel, and also perhaps if other board members are interested, a wider board update. And so I guess to reiterate around, I think this is a good opportunity for TFL, yes, and I'm conscious that DFT and others have a strong view on this and a regulatory role in this as well, but to take a really proactive role in shaping this market and deciding if and how we want to welcome this new technology to the city.
Thanks. I'll respond as well after Andy and Alex to that really important point. Mari, thanks for your patience. You okay to us doing four?
Yeah, sure.
Mari.
Thank you very much. And can I just echo all the comments around Zoe and Rachel, two amazing women, and you've done phenomenal things at TFL, but are clearly going on to do even more phenomenal things. So thank you very much for that. Just one set of comments. I wanted to particularly welcome, as Andy did, the new step-free entrance at Colindale Station, which is really good progress. But also, we're now hit the target of 100 self-reporting lifts, which is amazing. Who thought 4 or 5 years ago a lift could self-report? It's science fiction stuff and will make such an incredible difference. So really grateful for everybody who did all the work on that, and hope to see even more of them. I would echo the comments from Anurag in relation to the work on the pay gaps reports, and not just a lot of work gone into compiling the evidence, but also the progress that we've made, particularly around women and people of colour, is really remarkable. But we have made more limited progress on disabled staff, and I just wondered what our thinking is, because I think we're not alone as an organisation with that challenge, but I think maybe we've got an opportunity to do a bit more leading the way. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mari. Andy, thanks for doing a round of four. Over to you.
Sure, thank you. Deborah, again, thank you for your comments around FinCom and your very clear view. That's much appreciated. In terms of the response to the RMT letter, I mean, obviously, the Chair's been clear in his expectation of me on that. I suggest what we do is, realistically, we'll need to draft something. I suggest I take an action to work with Seb as Deputy Chair of the Board on how we finalise what that response is on behalf of the Board, and then we can agree whether or not you sign it, I sign it, or the Chair signs it, but we can take that away. So I'll work with Andrew and we'll draft a response, but either way, we'll make sure you all have visibility of it at the appropriate time. Violence against women and girls, as you know, our programme is very much around eliminating it. It's not reducing it. It is about eliminating it. And we're doing a huge amount of work, again, being led by Claire, and particularly Shuan Hayward in this. And again, we are completely aligned here with the Met and BTP and Network Rail and the Rail Delivery Group and all our bus operators. I mean, there is not a page of paper between us in terms of what we all want to do. I think we need to be, there's still more we can do to be more joined up and make sure that we are working collaboratively across our respective organisations. But your point around the upstream education, if you like, and engagement is a really important one. And there is, I don't have the detail to hand, but there is a lot of thinking, in fact, some work ongoing on that. I don't know, Claire, if you want to comment on that.
Thanks, Andy. Yes, so as part of the White Ribbon accreditation, that is about educating young men and bystanders as well around this issue. But through the Transport Museum, we do Project Guardian, which is outreach to Year 9 boys and girls about this issue, behaviours and what is and isn't acceptable, and that's working really, really well. So as part of the White Ribbon work, we do a lot of outreach to schools and communities. But to Andy's point, we're working really closely now with the rail sector as it moves into GBR and the changing sort of leadership to say, how can we as a transport sector do something to make a difference here together rather than in separate ways? And we're starting to make some really good progress. So if in fact in TFL we're leading the way in many of these areas, but we're working with Network Rail and the BTP to do more. So just to give you some comfort, it's really sort of starting to ramp up now.
Thanks, Claire. On the safety reporting system and data, this has been a huge step forward, led by Lily's team, but clearly with a lot of support from Rachel's team on the tech side of it. This now gives us greater visibility and will give us greater visibility, particularly through our EXCO safety group, and then ultimately into the safety and security panel around analysing incidents, giving us greater consistency of data across the organisation, because different parts of TFL reported it and collated it in different ways. Some areas have had greater ability to analyse it than others. So this now gives us some consistency across the entire organisation, which will then be able to inform the relevant safety groups at each chief officer level, up to the exec safety group that Lily chairs and I attend, and then ultimately into the safety and security panel, where we'll be able to use it as early warning indicators of where we need to put our focus on, where there are trends that are going in the wrong direction, that sort of thing. So that's very much what we're intending to do. Mike, again, tech and innovation, we've touched on it already. I mean, such a huge part of what we want to do. And AI, I think, is a really interesting example. We've got to get more of a handle. In fact, we're going to have a session pretty soon on AI more generally at EXCO. I think that AI is such a broad, I mean, I think the chair's summary of it was a great one earlier. It is such a broad area and covers such a range of different things. A lot of people think about it around where it is either from a pure tech perspective or it's replacing human beings. Actually, there's a lot more. We are using it, for example, as part of our platform train interface safety trials, where we're using CCTV to create alerts so that our people can respond quickly when there's a reported incident of somebody being on the track when they shouldn't be there. If we can get that to work, that is going to dramatically reduce the number of occasions of people being on a track and potentially being in harm's way, for example. Network Rail have done some great work, and Stuart's aware of this because he sits on the Network Rail board and it's in the industry as well, around putting CCTV on their trains to help do track inspection work. Now, if we can do that as well, that again gives us greater certainty around asset condition, enables us to do better planned preventative maintenance, for example, which then means we can deploy our people in a far more efficient way and reduce our cost of renewals going forward. So there's a whole range of stuff that we're working on and we need to look at. We need to think about the best way of engaging, involving all of you, because depending on what element it is we're trying to fix, it could report into Safety and Security Panel on one issue, or Programme Investment Committee on another, or CSOP on another, for example. So it's a very, very broad aspect. And then TFL Go, Alex, I don't know if you want to talk about some of the future developments. This is something we're pushing really hard, and particularly, we're making real progress on the rollout of 4G, 5G below ground on the tube network. When we get to 100% coverage, this is a massive opportunity for us, particularly to help customers at times of disruption, but also to give them choice and, of course, enable them to have a better experience when they're using the network more generally. But Alex, you want to talk through some of that?
On TFL Go, there is a roadmap of improvements, and there's a real momentum there with the team, actually. We've got an excellent lead of the team, and I think what we'll do, well, there is one timetable for an update to CSOP, and I'll double check when it is, and I'll take the point about it not being autumn. It will be earlier, because I know you're talking about automated vehicles, but it's we will try to bring that forward. I'm particularly pleased with the one that's referred to in the the Commissioner's report, because that's about letting people know when they've hit their caps. It's our biggest discount on the transport network, and I think historically we probably undersold that really. So letting people know that every trip beyond a certain number is free and is on us is a really important message to get across to people. But there's a lot more going on in that space, and we will bring a detailed update to CSOP fairly soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. And Arthur, autonomous vehicles is moving at pace. I think your point around an update in autumn, we'll look at how and when we bring that forward. I'm not sure if it is safety and security panel is the right one, because it's not just about safety. There are clearly potential safety benefits of autonomous vehicles, but there are much wider implications of what autonomous vehicles could do, both in terms of the benefits and the opportunities, but also in terms of the implications and risks that we need to consider as an organisation and to London. So we'll take an action away to review when is the right time and to which panel to bring it to. But rest assured that it's a very active and live discussion. Christina Calderato in Alex's team is leading a piece of work on it. In fact, we had a brief discussion with Seb and the team yesterday, and we're due to bring the Mayor an update shortly as well. So we'll think of the best way of doing that, but clearly it needs to be at least an update sooner than autumn. So we'll take that as an action. Mari, I'll put Fiona on notice to talk about pay gap for disabled colleagues. It clearly is an area where we want to make more progress, but thank you in particular again for your ongoing championing and support around what we're doing around equity in motion and being such a strong advocate for people who find access to the network difficult. The self-reporting lifts, I think, is a real great example of where we really have used innovation. We've trialled it on a low number and it's now being rolled out, and it's really complex, because you won't be surprised to hear we have a huge number of lifts and they're not all the same, and they don't all have the same capability in terms of how we plug in the capabilities for them to self-report. But of course the two huge benefits that brings is firstly better real-time information so that customers can plan their journeys better, and secondly greater ability for us to respond to go and fix the issue than we had previously. So it's delivering huge benefits to Claire's team in terms of improving availability as well. Our ambition is to roll it out across the entire network, but I think that is an ambition that we probably won't achieve until we start replacing some lifts, because some lifts I think are so old technology that we will struggle to make it work until we upgrade the lifts. But thank you for that. Fiona, do you want to just touch on pay gap again?
Yeah, thank you, Mari. So, as you know, our action and inclusion strategy focused on all areas of inclusion, including disability. So we've got a lot of work in the pipeline that we've either started completing this year or will roll into next year. So we've launched a workplace adjustments team, and what we're trying to do is how do we adjust the workplace to help people be able to thrive if they need additional support. And we're also launching passports for people so that as they move roles and get promoted or change jobs, they don't have to go back and ask for those same adjustments. They're already agreed. So we're trying to remove some of the barriers that are there. We've also undertaken quite a huge amount of education. So we're currently mandating that all of our people leaders go through a in-person session on understanding disability and what it means, and that some disabilities present in different ways, and actually how do we make sure that the environment that people are in allows them to grow and thrive. And on the back of that, what we have started seeing is increased declaration rates, which is good, because actually that means that our data is more robust, and it's been an area where our declaration rates haven't been as good as the other areas. And I think we may see, you know, that gap change more as more and more people declare. But actually, the more confidence we have in that, what the actual gap is, because the data's accurate, is going to be really important. So, again, action and inclusion goes to the people in REM, but it is really a good strategy that is about really fixing the key challenges that people might have that promotes inequity in the workplace. So we're doing a lot of work.
Thanks all for those comments and questions. I've got a couple of comments to make myself. Deborah, firstly, thank you for saying what you said in relation to our cleaners. And I'll make this point again because there may be some cleaners watching this or their trade unions. Cleaners are as important to us running a good public transport system as our signallers, as our operators, as our drivers, as our control room team and stuff. And that's the attitude we've got to have in relation to this important part of our team. Of course, there's a substantive point raised by the RMT, but I think the response from Andy said, checked by the board, is an opportunity for us to just explain our processes, just to reassure those who probably need reassurance in terms of both substance, but also really important how our processes work. And it's, it's not in a patronising way, but just to explain there are checks and balances. And as you've so powerfully and, articulated, none of you are pushovers, and I certainly aren't. But it's important just to reassure people who may have thought that and stuff. So it's important we do that. And just to say, in relation to violence against women and girls, I think it's a real problem for society. I think there's there's an epidemic across the country. Every 3 days, a woman is killed at the hands of a man across our country. Every 3 days. I think TFL by itself can't solve that, but just to reassure you, we in City Hall are publishing a new violence against women and girls strategy. The government has a target to reduce by half those who are victims and survivors by 2030. We want to do better than that. And there's a role for us to play in terms of a public authority, but what we can do to do that in school, public education and so forth. And TFL will use whatever assets we have to play our role in terms of not just dealing with it when it happens, but trying to deal with it, as you said, upstream is really important as well. Arthur, look, I think you raised some really important points about driverless cars. I think TFL under the previous regime was poor when it came to private hire vehicles and the use of apps to get those. And when I became chair, we rectified that in terms of better regulation. We were taken to court, and we were proved right, because to give that company credit, they changed their processes because of the concerns we had after the event. I don't want to do that when it comes to driverless cars. We've got to be talking about this in real time. So, Alex, what needs to happen is not just one, but the relevant panels in real time discussing this as it's happening. So in real time, have an impact on those companies who are using London for good reasons as a test bed to try their driverless cars. So I want, Arthur, your expertise as non-ExCo to support the ExCo team, because it's a world's first, right? It's never been done before. And so this team are not embarrassed to work with you, your expertise. So, Alex, can we think how in real time we make this happen? I don't want to report afterwards. And so can you feed into that, please, Arthur, and ask colleagues to as well. And you'll see a receptiveness here to take on board your comments. I think it's really important to get this right, because once a company can do it in London, they will sell that and use elsewhere. And that brings that has a responsibility. We've got to get it right. And as I said, we didn't get it right when it came to apps and private hire vehicles and so forth. We rectified that, but we're going to get it right the first time. Mari, thanks for raising your really important point. Look, one of the things that TFL are very good at is letting people know when a train or a tube or a bus is going to be late. What it's very poor at is letting somebody know when they turn up at a station because they're in a wheelchair that the lift's not working, or the escalator's not working, or the toilet's been closed and so forth. But this technology is game-changing in terms of self-reporting. It's quite remarkable. And if we get the TFL Go app, even better. It's great now. You, as somebody who needs a lift or needs an escalator, will know in advance. We'll try and fix it as soon as we can. But that's a game changer. It's so frustrating. We hear stories from people in relation to that. So thanks for passing that on. We'll make sure we take it forward. Final thing, just to say to Rachel and Zoe, look, I've been doing this for a long time. People don't use words like heartbreaking and gutted normally when it comes to somebody leaving, whether you're a senior member of the team or whether you're a board member. So if nothing else, just remind yourselves that the impact you had in terms of colleagues being gutted and heartbroken. Thank you genuinely for the contribution you've played, either as a member of the board or as a member of the senior team, Rachel. And can I again ask all of us to show appreciation to both Rachel and Zoe. Okay. Report. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Chair. Today I'm providing an update on our finances to cover the period up to the end of period 9, which is the 6th of December 2025. If I may, though, Chair, before I get on to the finance report, I would just like to say a really sincere thank you to you, Chair Andy, and for all of our members for their very kind words and wishes. It has been the absolute privilege and highlight of my professional career to work here. And I do want to thank you, Chair, the whole team, at the GLA members, your drive, your unwavering focus on making this incredible city even better all the time for everyone who works here and lives here and chooses to visit is just wonderful. It's challenging, it's exciting, and it's wonderful. So thank you. I'm one of the many millions of people who came to London for work and stayed for my family and for my future. And whilst I'm really proud of all the professional things I've achieved, my best memories come from moments out on the network, helping our amazing colleagues and our customers. In fact, I think, the only member of ExCo who's been brought a packet of Werther's Originals from an elderly customer when I managed to help find his bus pass. So, precious moments. Nobody personifies commitment to our values and purpose more than Patrick. And I'm certain he's going to bring the perfect blend of continuity and fresh thinking into the team. And I wish him, Andy, and the whole of my ExCo colleagues the success you very much deserve as you carry on delivering for London. I think I better get on to the finances now. So turning to that, as board members are aware, our budget in the current year is to achieve an operating surplus of £5 million, supporting our plans to deliver 1.9 billion of capital investment this year. In addition, as you know, we have targets to continue to drive cost efficiency and to maintain our financial resilience. Starting with income, as at the end of period 9, total revenue is favourable to both budget and last year, although we continue to see lower passenger journey numbers than we originally forecast. We have budgeted, as you know, for passenger journey growth of 2.1% year-on-year this year. In the year to date, journeys are up on last year across most of our services. The exceptions are the DLR, that's something that relates to our plans to do engineering work and to test for the introduction of the new fleet. So we knew about that and planned and budgeted for it. But the more structural trend, which we'll talk about more in the context of the business plan, is of course what we're seeing on buses. We did actually, since the date of this report, in more recent trends since the end of period 9, so over the Christmas and New Year period, we've seen slightly more positive passenger data, particularly on LU. But overall, as I have said to my colleagues, we're not assuming that one swallow is quite making a summer yet. So we've continued to maintain our sort of overall forecasts for future trends. Overall, therefore, at period 9, our passenger income of 3.79 billion is 88 million so far lower than budget. Our other operating income is 129 million higher than budget, mainly from higher roads and tunnel income, and that's partially offset, as usual, for the cost of providing for unpaid amounts on road user charging. The net upside there is around 21 million. Our advertising income also continues to outperform even the previous positive reports that I've given to the Board and the Finance Committee. We're currently 17% higher than last year in terms of our income on advertising. That's new contracts, but also very positive volumes. On operating costs, we are 65 million better than budget, and we are on track to deliver our complete savings programme. You all know how significant this is in terms of making sure that there's money available for investment and for improving services. And by the end of the current financial year, we expect to be recording recurring operating savings of £1.8 billion since 2016-2017. Overall, therefore, in the year to date, our operating surplus at period 9 stood at 182 million. Some of that is timing differences, so there's more cost to flow out in the remainder of the year. So adjusting for that, our surplus is 102 million. That's still about 40 million ahead of budget. We last completed a forecast of the full year at Q2. At that point, we were projecting around about the same as budgets, the 5 million operating surplus. Ahead of the next Finance Committee, we'll be publishing our Q3 forecast. Current trends show that, if anything, we will be slightly better than that Q2 forecast. So we're just working through that at the moment. Moving on to investment, our capital programme, as I said, of 1.9 billion this year. Year to date on renewals, we're about 46 million lower than budget. Mainly, again, that is timing. We spent a lot of time reviewing our renewals investment because although it impacts the operating surplus favourably, we really want to get that renewals investment out into the network as we have planned. We do expect by the end of the year to be broadly in line with our budget. We're seeing a ramp up, which we've seen in previous years in the final quarter, and we have contracts in place, resources in place, possessions booked, etc., to deliver the bulk of that by the end of the year. On enhancements, again, we have some rephasing, particularly on the very big programmes, the Piccadilly line upgrade and DLR, and we're 119 million lower than budget after 9 periods. Finally, on cash and borrowing, our cash balances at the end of period 9 were 1.493 billion. That's 109 million more than the end of last year, but it is slightly 52 million below where we had budgeted. Borrowing is slightly ahead, but that's consistent with our investment and borrowing strategy for the current year. And finally, from me, there have been no changes to our credit ratings since the last report to the board. Thank you, Chair. Very happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Patrick, anything to add? Great. Any questions or comments to Rachel? You're going easy, aren't you? You're going soft on her, aren't you? That's fine. I'm sure she'll... Okay, there's no questions or comments. We're asked as a board to note the finance report. Is that agreed? End of an era, Rachel. Okay, the next item is the draft 2026 TFL business plan. Alex, do you want to kick this off? Rachel, Alex and Patrick, over to you.
I promise this really is the end. Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to be able to lead off presenting to the board our draft business plan, which covers our plans and investment priorities to 2029-30. I would like to start by placing on record our thanks to board members, the Mayor and his team, and many, many external stakeholders who've helped us with our thinking as we've gone through the prioritisation process for this. I'm going to start briefly with some strategic, economic and financial context. Then I'll hand to Alex, who will take us through how this is going to deliver progress on all of our outcomes. And then Patrick is going to introduce the finances contained within the plan. So the first thing to say is I think there's 3 really important foundations for this. The vision that comes from the Mayor's transport strategy and our own corporate strategy. That vision for a safer, greener, healthier and affordable transport network. The second building block is, without question, the progress that we've made since the pandemic to get to a point where we're generating our own funds from our operating surplus, just so that we can make more available for investment. And then the third and final underpin for this is the multi-year capital funding agreement, which has contributed 2.2 billion into this plan. Clearly, the funding is most welcome, but I have to say the certainty for that prolonged period is also most welcome. What this means is we've been able to do a comprehensive piece of much longer term planning that we've done for a while. We've embedded longer term thinking into our planning, so whole life asset management coming through more strongly. We've also got some opportunities to do spend to save investments to help us with our future savings programme. With a business plan of this duration, you have time to make that investment and see the return come through. So that is integral, not just for money, not just for saving costs, but actually to directly impact through those better ways of working, our green objectives, our improved customer service, safety and security. As I've just covered, we are, and Andy mentioned, we are heading, we believe, for an operating surplus for the 3rd year running. But we have to note that we have faced some tailwinds, no headwinds, thank you, some headwinds in recent years, with slower than expected passenger growth, with inflation prolonging for further and at a higher level than we had originally said. So, as ever, we've been mindful to design into this plan sufficient levers so that we have an excellent risk and contingency approach. So if further headwinds were to emerge, ahead of what we are forecasting, we know exactly what we would be able to do to make sure that we are financially sustainable into both the short and the medium term. And Patrick will set out our risk and contingency plan in a bit more detail. So with that introduction, I'm now delighted to hand over to Alex to talk about progress to our strategic goals.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I will start with safety and security of our customers, colleagues and Londoners, as that is at the forefront of everything we do. Board members will be aware that we've been making progress to reduce the number of people killed and seriously injured. However, the pace of that decline has not been as great as we would all like. Lily's team will be finalising the new Vision Zero Action Plan soon, and this will take account of the new National Road Safety Strategy. And the business plan takes account of both documents and includes detail of what we plan to do over the next few years. This includes continuing the work to lower speed limits on both the TLRN and borough roads, a programme of work we know to be very, very effective, continuing our work to ending violence against women and girls, and continuing the expansion of bus safety standard across our fleets. Much more in there, but those are three highlights I'd highlight. I would also like to recognise the need to innovate. We recognise that as a key area, and we will look at that particularly in relation to further trials on how we manage the passenger train interface and also improving safety on stairs and escalators. If I turn to healthy streets, the plan provides welcome certainty to the boroughs on funding levels for the next few years, something that they and we have craved for a long time. This will enable us and them to continue investment in the walking environment, including more safer crossings and school streets, for example. In addition, we'll also proceed with the flagship scheme to transform Oxford Street, following the recent consultation exercise and proposals for Oxford Street West. The Healthy Streets programme now incorporates sustainable urban drainage as a core part of the scheme design, and you'll see more of these schemes across the capital that will both soften the landscape and improve the public realm. The plan also enabled us to continue to expand the cycle network. Members will know much has been achieved over the last few years, with the significant increases in the cycle network leading to a significant increase in cycling across the capital. The plan will build on that success, and the aim is to deliver another 95 kilometres of cycle lane across the capital. Also in the Healthy Streets section, we cover that the support we provide to Londoners shifting towards electric vehicles. Most properties in the capital don't have access to off-street parking, and therefore we are more reliant on publicly accessible charging points than the rest of the country. We now have over 28,000 charging points in the capital, an increase of over 5,000 in the last calendar year, and we are confident this plan will enable us to exceed the target of 40,000 by the end of the decade. If I move on to public transport, the funding certainty in this plan will enable us to press on with significant enhancements to our fleets. This includes bringing the new DLR and PIC line fleets into operation and the 10 new Elizabeth line trains, continuing the refurbishment of the Central line fleet and procuring a new tram fleet and a new Bakerloo line fleet. We will also invest in our stations and focus on delivering step-free access across the network. Northolt, Leighton and Surrey Quays are under construction. Design and feasibility is underway at over 30 stations across the network as we work towards 50% of the network being step-free. We will also press on with major transformational schemes at Elephant and Castle and South Kensington, subject to final funding agreements. On buses, we've talked about that earlier, and Andy mentioned the kind of reimagining the bus network. It is our most important or most heavily used public transport mode, and this plan is a comprehensive plan of actions to improve the quality of the services that we hope will also stimulate more ridership. This includes transitioning to a zero-emission bus fleet as soon as possible, expanding the successful Superloop network, and a range of interventions to improve bus speeds, including more bus lanes, signalling technology, and more extensive lane rental systems to manage the disruption or to help manage the disruption of utility works. Finally, our role on new homes and jobs is twofold, both as an enabler and also, as Anna will know, through a direct delivery through the Places for London portfolio. I think our enabling role is focused on supporting the delivery of the government's 2 new designated new towns for the city. The first is in Thamesmead, where we'll be working on finalising the funding deal for the DLR extension to Thamesmead, and we are working on the TWA application, and that will come to this board for approval later this year. Also at Cruise Hill, where there's a potential another 20,000 homes in that area of London, we are keen to extend the successful London Overground network to the Great Northern Inner Services. We are confident that this will help unlock housing growth in the area, as the London Overground network has done across the city already, and we're in productive discussions with the Department for Transport on this. We also have a direct delivery role through our property company Places for London. We recently completed 1,740 homes. That's our running total now. Places for London will continue this work and seek to maximise the number of new starts over the next year as we seek to benefit from the recent planning reforms announced by the Mayor and the Secretary of State last autumn. So to conclude and in summary, this is an ambitious plan that will deliver on our strategic priorities. And I'll now hand over to Patrick to summarise some of the financial issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. So continuing to build our financial sustainability underpins this business plan. And to do that, we will continue with the financial strategy that's guided us over the past 3 or 4 years, which is threefold: to diversify and grow our revenue, to continually improve our efficiency, and to build our resilience so we can continue to invest and create that virtuous cycle of being able to fund further investment. So in terms of growing our revenue, the business plan projects growth in passenger income from 5.5 billion this year to 7.1 billion in 29-30. The fares assumptions underpinning that are based on the government's and the Mayor's fares decisions for March 2026, after which our planning assumption is that fares will rise annually by RPI plus 1%. That's in accordance with the government's capital funding settlement and the assumption that makes. However, of course, the actual fares, the actual TFL fares, will be a decision for the Mayor. On London Underground, we're forecasting on average 1.5% year-on-year demand growth over the business plan period. That's supported by the benefits as we complete projects such as the Piccadilly line upgrade and the major signalling upgrade on the District and Metropolitan lines. On buses, as Rachel's outlined, this year we are forecasting and seeing a year-on-year decrease in demand. But the measures that are undertaken as we reimagine the bus network that Alex has just briefly summarised, we believe will lead in future to modest year-on-year growth on around 1% per annum from next year onwards. But as well as those improvements and the other improvements to drive demand, we're also exploring fares innovation and how we can optimise fares to deliver the most, to optimise the revenue across the business plan period. And that includes investigating how we can provide even greater value for customers with loyalty and reward schemes. Combined with that, we continue with our ambitious target to reduce fare evasion to 1.5% by 2030-31. And our interventions include using data to better understand where, when and how fare evasion occurs, and therefore the most appropriate interventions to tackle that. Enable us to really prioritise those interventions most effectively. Outside of our fares income, on congestion charge, this plan assumes an annual price increase of RPI plus 1 from 2027 on the charge, in line with the assumptions that we're planning assumptions we're making on public transport fares. But the decision-making will be subject to impact assessments and ultimately the Mayoral decisions. It's also assumed that the tunnel user charge on the Blackwall and Silvertown tunnels will increase in the same way. But those assumptions do not apply to the ultra-low emission zone. Outside of those sources, we're working hard to increase non-fares income from both existing and potential new sources, including our commercial advertising estate that Rachel's already mentioned we're seeing the results of this year, we will continue to invest in, and how we can exploit intellectual property licensing in line with recent best practice guidance from government. We will continue Rachel's drive, a mission to increase the collection rate on enforcement income through targeted interventions, particularly for repeat offenders, and work with government to continue to pursue the alternative enforcement strategies, which we believe have a more significant impact and ultimately a deterrent effect to drive the right compliance and behaviours that we seek. Overall, our other income sources are forecast to grow by 25% by the end of the plan compared to the current year. In terms of continually improving our efficiency, because in the face of some of the headwinds that we have and the macroeconomic conditions that we're currently in, apart from growing revenue, we need to go further on cost reduction. And we have been, as Rachel's covered, running a very successful savings and efficiency programme for several years. And in real terms and like-for-like, total operating costs are lower than they were in 2021, 2022, and they've been broadly flat over the last 3 years, demonstrating how we've been managing a period of high inflation through our significant savings programme. Over this new business plan period, we have included a recurring savings assumption of a further £750 million over 4 years. That's equivalent to saving 2% on average of our operating costs each year after inflation. After a significant programme that we've already delivered, we believe that savings target is ambitious, but we're determined we can deliver so we can reinvest in the critical investment for London and our customers, and we do believe we are confident in meeting this new target. During the course of the plan, we'll continue to explore a range of savings initiatives and have a number of key work streams that the Executive Committee will oversee and report through to the various committees and panels as relevant. That includes, on property, continuing to consolidate space across our estate to create sub-letting opportunities and other commercial opportunities and partnerships with places. And in terms of procurement, we will continue with our more strategic approach to managing suppliers and working on a pan-TFL basis to exploit the buying power that we have. But we will also be looking at in-house delivery of work that we've previously outsourced, where that delivers value for money. And finally, in terms of our financial resilience and our investment. So to support that financial resilience, the most important measure we have is our cash and accounting reserves that are our last line of defence against shocks, so we can continue to make payments, continue to operate the network. Our liquidity policy remains, as approved by the Finance Committee, to maintain a minimum cash reserve equivalent to 60 days of operating expenses. That's currently around the 1.4 billion that we've just seen in our finance report. Over time, that value will grow to about 1.6 billion by the end of the plan. But that remains at that 60-day figure, which we believe is the prudent minimum to protect against unexpected shocks. And our accounting reserves in the general fund, we have been growing those back since the pandemic to 500 million, which again we see as the prudent minimum, and the plan will maintain us at that level. In terms of borrowing, the plan sets out that we plan for around 400 million of net new borrowing, which we are anticipating over the first 2 years of the plan as we build our operating surplus to fund future investment. But the plan is that over the full life of the plan to 2930, actually borrowing will fall slightly and will end the plan broadly at today's level. Alongside that borrowing, we will continue to explore opportunities for alternative financing arrangements where it makes sense and delivers value for money, including leasing or cash generation. Look at where asset disposals is the right thing to do in terms of long-term value for money. And all of that will support and help underpin the investment that we make. And in total, this plan funds an average of £1.9 billion per year of capital investment. Importantly, that includes a planned increase in renewals investment in our assets to an average of £860 million per year, which is crucial to keep our services running safely and effectively and reliably. Over the past 5 years, during the pandemic, and with uncertainties around funding, our investment in capital renewals was constrained to between 400 million and 770 million per year. So this is a further continuation of our increased investment in renewals. But it's not just about the amount of money we spend, it's about how we spend that well. And we will continue to focus on how we can do that by improving our asset data in terms of the number of the AI and data opportunities that we've been discussing already to get the maximum benefit from every pound we spend. That doesn't just apply to our renewals, that applies to our whole capital programme. And building on the successful capital efficiencies programme we've had over the past few years, this plan includes a further £500 million of capital efficiencies that we're targeting over the plan period. Overall, I agree with Alex and Rachel's statement. This is an ambitious plan, but one that is deliverable. But like with any plan, we do face a number of risks. We monitor that through our reporting that goes to the Finance Committee about our net weighted risk exposure against a range of risks and opportunities, and have included an element of central contingency in our budget that's the first line of defence against those risks. But we do have a number of additional downside levers that are there to provide mitigation against further shocks that are outlined in that paper. That includes maintaining the finance facility the Mayor and the GLA have provided to provide time to respond to shocks if they occur. Finally, to help provide us and yourselves assurance, this year for the first time, under Rachel's Commission, we've engaged the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, CIPFA, to perform an independent financial assurance of our plan. And their overall view that TfL had a reasonable and proportionate approach to its business plan, but we found it was a helpful exercise, and they have highlighted a few areas of process improvement that we can take forward and build on. But I share Rachel's and Alex's pleasure in presenting this business plan to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel, Alex, and Patrick. Any questions or comments for the team? We'll start from this side, if that's okay, Peter. Mari, your hand was first. I'll start from your side, Mari, then work around if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment, really, to thank everybody who's been involved in this very comprehensive plan. But I particularly wanted to commend the equality impact assessment that went alongside this. I would encourage anybody to read it. It really demonstrates why EQIAs are a positive way to undertake business. It's really evidence-based, it's very open, very transparent, and I think very, very useful. So I'd be grateful if we could pass on our thanks to those who were involved in putting that together. Thank you.
Thanks, Mari. Any other questions or comments? Mike, yep.
Thank you, Chair. I just welcome the business plan. I think Alex's description of deliverable but ambitious is a good one, and sort of where we want to pitch it, really. I just pick up a few points. So I certainly welcome the further progress in areas like step-free access and housing delivery through Places for London. So good to see that continuing and increasing. I think it is important, and Patrick covered this, and we'll need to continue to do this to demonstrate our ongoing ambitions in terms of efficiency and cost reduction. So good to see that included, and we'll no doubt monitor that going forward. I suppose the challenge here, and this plan does quite a lot, but it's not quite a bottomless pit, but certainly we could do a lot more in terms of capital investment if we had the funding. So I welcome the work on innovative financing and looking at what we can do on that. And then finally on risk, and again, Patrick touched on this, and I suppose the question for me really is, what do we think those key risks might be? And I'm thinking not just of the sort of local risks like the fare box, but we live in pretty uncertain times in terms of geopolitical issues, etc., risks around interest rates, risks around trade and tariffs, which we all know and love. So I think it's really important that we have those contingencies in place, and some of those numbers sound quite large, but I think they're appropriately sized in terms of both the scale of our operation, but also some of those risks. But interested to get thoughts from Rachel and Patrick and others about what are the ones that potentially could really be significant and would worry us. I'm sure some sensitivity analysis has been done as part of the process. So just a bit more colour on what those key risks are would be helpful, I think.
Can I just check, Andy, are you okay to hold the ring and take rounds of three?
Sure.
Fine, thanks. Deborah. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I've also noted, because I've switched seats, I'm coming up as Mike, he came up as Deborah. I hope my question is just as erudite as the one that I clearly asked. Thanks for the budget information. I know that we've had a number of rounds of conversations in the preparation for. The issue I want to just tease out a little bit is to understand how, in light of all of the restrictions that we have in terms of finance and the uncertainty, as Mike has previously mentioned, how we can remain open to opportunities. I say this noting that we have the opportunity, or we're in conversation around the Cruise Hill area. That's the borough in which I live. That is a borough in which there is an opportunity to provide additional transport under TFL, and the opportunity for 20,000 homes, but that's the most affluent area of the borough. There's another area of the borough where there isn't as much opportunity for the local residents, and I'd be keen for us, in our looking at providing opportunities, to have a borough-wide view. Once again, we have an opportunity, because of our size, to be able to influence the lives of residents in ways that we couldn't. So I'd just be keen to understand how flexible we are to opportunities as they arise. And then secondly, not wanting to open other conversations again, but I do think we've had a number of people around the table talking about the use of technology in one shape or form. And I understand that after we've made the investment, technology can also help drive down or improve cost efficiencies. So I'd like to just confirm if there would be an opportunity for the board to receive a briefing on our focus and what we can plan to do with AI, not just the sort of chat GPTs, but sort of agentic AI and using AI as AI swarms. I just think it's really important for us to be clear about the opportunities that might be available. It might not be ready for investment in this year, but if we can see the route to, I think it would be easier for us when we're talking to execs about potential investment in this area going forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Andy, do you want to bring in colleagues as and when? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. If I may, Chair, just take this opportunity. I mean, thank you for all the positive comments generally around the board, and particular thanks to Rachel, Patrick and Alex there. But I need to stress this has been an incredible team effort. Every member of EXCO. We absolutely love Rachel dearly, but we are actually all quite looking forward to having a bit of time not doing business plan and budget with her for a while. We've spent hours and hours locked away producing this plan. But on top of that, actually, there are some really critical individuals in TFL, most notably Pritesh in Rachel's team, Christina in Alex's team, and Martin Taylor in Christina's team, who've really been the driving force behind this, and Matt Brown on the wider comms. So I just want to put on record thanks to them for their. I mean, if a group of people have got patience in dealing with EXCO, it's all of them. Mari, for me, this is the most comprehensive business plan we've ever had in my time in TFL, and it does give us a certainty. I think we need to, because we've been working on quite short-term plans for the last few years, we do need to recognise that this is a 4 to 5 year plan, and the back end of the plan has more uncertainty than the front end of the plan, because we've still got things to work on and develop, whether it's technology, whether it's some of the specifics. So one of the things we are putting together is a revised governance from an exec perspective of how we're going to manage the work streams, manage delivery of the plan, and then how that feeds into the relevant board panels and committees, so that there'll be a regular update and drumbeat of how we're managing it, how we're delivering it, and any new developments, whether it's on technology or people or operations. So as we finalise that, which we will do over literally the coming days, we'll update all of you specifically on that. And the EQIA, Mari, thank you for your positive comments on that. That really is, I think it's the first time we've done it in this way. I think it is really positive, and thank you for the positive comments on that. Mike, I'll come to your questions around places and financing and risk, and I'll ask Alex just to touch on places, and then Rachel or Patrick to talk about the financing and risk management side of things.
On the places front, you'll be aware that there's a separate business plan for places that was approved by the LPC in December. And there's a lot of activity, one on new homes. And as I say, the focus for the next few years is on ramping up the starts as best we can. But also on the non-home fronts, it's the commercial estate, the new offices with Helical, and also our retail and Arches estate, really. So I think there is a comprehensive plan there that will lead to a higher dividend for TFL, and that will be factored into our budgets. But our actual focus is more on the aggregate asset value. You'll know we do have an evaluation twice a year. I think we're around 1.8 billion now. We want to get up north of 3 billion as part of the Places for London plan. I think that is our focus, really, which is about delivering more homes, delivering a more effective commercial estate to generate jobs, but also increasing value, really. So, but it is interwoven with this plan as well, very much so, yeah. Thank you.
Patrick.
Thank you. So, Mike, in terms of the risks, there are many and varied. And actually, credit to Mark, who has helped drive this, is that this is the first year we've much more fully integrated our enterprise risk structure and approach into business planning, because that is the most systematic view of all the big risks, be it operational or external or whatever it might be, and understanding the financial and other impacts that has on the organisation. So I think, looking at those enterprise risk summaries that come through to each panel or committee as relevant gives the best insight into the risk in this business plan. I think purely from that financial lens, you're right that the risks crystallise in the fare box, but it's what is the root cause of that? So clearly the overall economic position remains a key uncertainty. And actually, even since this plan and the modelling that underpinned it that we put together over the course of the second half of last year, financial conditions have deteriorated slightly, at least in the short term. That's something we'll have to work through in the budget. But actually, in terms of the economic factors, it's a supply-side economic shock that I think is the most disruptive for an organisation like TFL. When you have a combination of supply impacts that were likely to feed through to us directly in some way, impacting our supply chain. But then you also get price inflation and general inflation, therefore cost of living impacts, and either increasing interest rates or, if not, the inability for the Bank of England to support by reducing interest rates that you would have if it was a demand-side economic issue. So it's understanding those supply-side risks, both at the macro level and then in the individual critical components, is one of the key concerns. And I think ultimately the pandemic was a supply-side of labour risk, and you can see the scale of the impact that could have on organisations such as TFL. But I think certainly through the Finance Committee, having the summaries of those enterprise risks, I think, is the best way for the board to have the overall assurance of how all those different things feed through into our business plan.
Thanks, Patrick. And of course, one significant opportunity we've got now is because there's the visibility of what we want to deliver, particularly our supply chain partners in industry are very engaged with us around what opportunity that creates for them, which then means we can potentially negotiate better value, longer-term contracts with the appropriate conditions in them, which is something we've just not been able to do realistically in the previous 5 years of the decade. Deborah, thank you for your comments around Cruise Hill, for example. Yeah, we want to be as agile as we can be in terms of maximising the opportunity for new opportunities, whether it be new opportunities that we are directly creating or responsible for, or those that we play a part in. And you know, there are 3 or 4 that spring to mind. Thamesmead, obvious one. We are driving that one. Cruise Hill, we're in very positive conversations with DfT, MHCLG on that, and I hope that we'll be able to make some progress and update the board on that in relatively short order. That will be a complex. That is potentially us taking over the running of what we call the Great Northern Inners from Moorgate and Old Street, bring it into the overground network. That requires a lot of coordination with Network Rail /GBR going forward, and we're having detailed conversations with them around the potential for that. So I hope you'll give the board an update on that. 2 obvious ones are already in work that are not our schemes, that we're actively involved in and getting more actively involved with Euston and Old Oak Common. Again, we're being brought in now in much clearer accountability in engagement on that. And clearly, now that we have even more former TFL colleagues joining HS2, I can only see that going one way, which is positive, and very good engagement with the DFT on that and around improving the governance and making sure that we have the right seat at the table around both those schemes. Linked to that, continue to make the case, and in fact, Seb and I were both, we had a first of our quarterly meetings with the Rail Minister, Lord Hendy, yesterday, where we talked about, and he's keen to understand and get an update from us on the business case for West London Orbital, which is the overground extension, which would link into HS2 and the Great Western Railway at Old Oak Common, and Bakerloo Line extension, and we even touched on Crossrail 2 as well. So we need to make sure that we don't just say, great, we've got the deal after Thamesmead over the line in terms of approval, we've got to go and deliver it now. Stuart and Alex, no pressure. But we've got to continue to focus to make the case for those other line extensions, because the transport system needs it, the city needs it, and we need it for the UK for economic growth and housing growth, because without those schemes, which are transformational, you're not going to deliver tens of thousands of more homes and tens of thousands of more jobs, and we've got schemes that are ready to go. One clearly more complex and expensive than the other, but nonetheless, we will continue to make the very strong case, as the Mayor always does as well. So we've got to make sure we keep pushing that, and we'll keep the board updated on progress on those.
The tech point Deborah raised in relation to...
Oh, so yeah, tech and AI. So there's a significant amount of work on that, and I think the best thing, as we update on how we're going to manage the work streams, there's a big piece around how we use technology in our colleague work streams and drive efficiency. There's a big piece in customer around how we do that as well, and there's a big piece in renewals and ops and enhancements. So we've got to decide where it sits and how we bring that forward. As I say, there's some elements are well developed in the early stages. Some we need to. We're a bit more in our early day thinking. So we'll take an action to bring that back in terms to the right fora when we update on the governance of the delivery.
Thanks. So we should make a note, Andrew, to make sure at the next board meeting, if it's not been sorted out, we just revisit this to make sure we've found a place for it, because it's very important, Deborah. Anurag, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Question not so much on the substance of the plan, which is excellent, does an excellent job of putting the Mayor's transport strategy into fruition. It's around the communications and the opportunity we have. And this is anecdotal, and it's hard to always see how far an anecdotal evidence stretches. But most people are, I think, I get the sense, are not quite aware of just how much stuff TFL does. To most people in London, TFL is tube, bus, etc. Right? Is there a way, Andy, to take this excellent piece of work, which frankly not very many people will read cover to cover, and other than some quite diehard transport enthusiasts, but could we perhaps shrink all of this down to one slide or two slides, which you could actually use as a communication tool when you make the case for TFL with politicians, with public, and actually with Londoners, people who depend on the system and perhaps don't quite understand how everything fits together, all the stuff TFL does. Thank you.
Thanks, Anurag. Walking around the room. Zoe's, I'll take Sarah first. Sarah.
I guess at times I wondered how hard this was being, and would we get here? And I just wanted to say congratulations on an excellent piece of work that's finished. But Andy, most importantly, I think the fact you said at the head of the meeting, you're looking at the next 25 years. And in that answer you've just given to Deborah's question, I think you've designed 25 years worth of work. And it's really fantastic to see you out batting for that at the same time as putting together a really carefully balanced, rational plan about what you can do with all the exciting things we've already got on our plate. So I just wanted to say thank you to the whole team, because I know, well, we only see the tip of the iceberg of who's doing what in order to bring this over the line, but it's, yeah, really fantastic work. Thank you. And thank you for not giving up on the long term, because I think a lot of organisations, given the amount of short-term funding that has happened and the relief of a period of long-term or medium-term funding, might have just stayed a bit more inward focused and not been looking at how you play for the whole UK economy and the whole of London. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the comments.
And on a lighter note, I'm worried from the design that you, Sadiq and Andy, look a little bit like criminals with the lines behind your heads. And so I just wondered if... nobody wants design by committee, but I did think it...
Sarah, I spotted that, don't worry. Words will be had.
Thank you.
Not that I'm vain, but yeah. Jim.
Yeah, I may have missed it when Alex was giving his presentation, but I can't see any mention of the proposed London Bus Company, the publicly owned bus company, in the business plan. You never mention it verbally. I can't see it in there either, in the written presentation either, the written report. And one other thing, if I've missed it, forgive me. You said there's 28,000 charging points in London, which is obviously good, but how many of those are rapid charging points? Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. We'll take Andy all three in order, please. That's okay. And you can bring in colleagues as well. Anurag, Sarah, and Jim. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Anurag, I think your comms point is a really good one. We spent a huge amount of work getting this document together. I hate to say for you and other colleagues, but now Matt Brown has got a lot of plans around what I'm going to be doing over the coming days and weeks across London and across the country to raise the awareness of what we're doing. We absolutely, I think your suggestion, we sort of did that. We've got one infographic in here, I think a 1 or 2 page, simple, what can we use to quickly leave with people to say, here's the substance of what's going to be achieved over the next 4 or 5 years is something we're really keen to do. Seb will, there'll be a number of us out doing a whole raft of engagement and making people aware of what we're doing. And there's already a huge amount of interest. I mean, bear in mind, we didn't want to make any presumption around what the board may still decide to do around the business plan, because this is still a draft business plans. But even the comms we put out, LinkedIn, the media, has picked up a significant amount of engagement. And the Rail Minister himself even committed yesterday to read this business plan, which would be the first TFL business plan he's read for 10 years. So, we're making progress. And that's really, all joking apart, the fact that Peter wants to do that is really, really positive. And we've offered a briefing to him. So rest assured there will be more, and we'll keep you all abridged on that. Sarah, thank you for your comments. It's much appreciated, and I'll leave that there. And Jim, there is reference, Alex didn't mention it, but there is reference to us, we'll develop detailed proposals for new publicly owned bus company for London on the section around delivering for London. So it is referenced in the plan, and there'll be more information on that on the coming weeks as part of the wider bus programme of work.
And Alex knows exactly how many rapid charging points there are, Jim, because I ask him this question every time I see him.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint, but I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around 2,000, but I'll get you the exact number because it's around 28,000 in total, but around 2,000 are rapids. But and one of the investments in this strategy through Places for London is to use our land to get more rapid charging hubs out there. The first one we're doing at Hatton Cross now, and there's another 5 in the pipeline over that we're going to start work on this calendar year actually. But I'll get you the precise number. Sorry to disappoint.
Just Anurag, in response to your really important point, look, I think this piece of work will give confidence to those who want to invest in London. It will give confidence in relation to not just FDI, but also our reputation as a world leader when it comes to public transport. So your observation and your advice is spot on in terms of getting this out there. Stakeholders will want to see this and praise you of this. So it's really important that we spend some time, once it's approved by the board, to do just that. Next round of questions or comments. Zoe.
Thanks very much, Chair. Can I just echo what all of my colleagues have said in welcoming the draft business plan and really commending everyone that's been involved, and also to say how valuable it's been as a board member to be engaged in that process as well. It's really appreciated. I think it may be my last meeting of board, so can I just say a few words about safety and security, because it has been my thing, I guess, since I've been here. And I think what I'd like to say is that at TFL, safety really is paramount. I've seen that. It comes through really clearly in this draft business plan and also the papers today, whether it's, you know, the unequivocal commitment to Vision Zero, whether it's the impact of the 20-mile-an-hour limits and the extraordinary reductions in killed and seriously injured that's brought about, and particularly children that we've talked about previously in the board. I think the papers today really do underscore the seriousness with which TFL takes and approaches safety and the professionalism that it demonstrates, really to be commended. And I've seen that rounded approach both as a board member and also chair of the Safety and Security panel. And it would be really remiss of me not to mention one last time my absolute delight in the work that TFL is doing to stop violence against women and girls in conjunction with its partners. I really commend that work. It really is revolutionary and world-beating. And I'm also delighted, and Claire knows I absolutely love this, that ambition that you have to make the Roundel the beacon of safety for the most vulnerable on our networks is just to be so wholly commended, and I know you will continue to pursue that ambition. Can I just take this moment, Chair, just to say it has been a real privilege to serve on this board. TFL is a world-leading transport organisation without any doubt. I didn't need to serve on the board to know that, but I mean, this has really reinforced the comment about all the things that TFL does. It really is absolutely eye-opening. It's been a pleasure to work with such a superb ExCo. Thank you, Andy, for leading it. Thank you for my colleagues who've supported me in learning so much, and it's been wonderful to work with such a talented group of board colleagues as well. And thank you very much for your lovely comments. I will be cheering on TFL from the sidelines, Chair, and I will remain the strongest advocate. So thank you very much indeed for my indulgence.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Tanya.
Yeah, this is a fabulous document. I know how much work has gone into it, and I know you got really close and then had to think again about lots of elements of it. And to be honest, when we started, I wasn't quite sure how we'd get to something as accessible, and it's ambitious, but I think it's completely doable, and I'm confident of that because I know how much work has gone into it. So thank you. One of the bits that gives me the most joy is on page 153 when it talks about the supplier networks. Those of you who know me know that I'm a massive advocate for London, and I think it's the best city in the world. But one of the things that's really important to remember is that how much London drives the economy of the whole country, and talking about the amount of jobs and wealth that TFL is bringing to the rest of the country is really important. So when I know Matt Brown has lots of plans about articulating this, I'd really want us to make sure that as an organisation we tell that story. But as individuals, I know I bang on about it all the time when I speak to people. How much we are supporting the economy of this country is really, really important. And not just because it's a sense of pride, but also when you go to government and ask for money for investment, this is one of the really important evidence points, I think. So thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Peter.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to emphasise a couple of points. I think it never ceases to amaze me that even in 2026 there are some boards that think they can do strategy by somebody deep in somebody like Alex's team producing a business plan, and a board goes, oh, that's fine, and rubber stamping it. And this is so far away from that type of process in a really good way. It's a genuine co-production across the whole of the executive team and the whole of the board. So there's nothing in this plan that should surprise any of us as chairs and members of committees and as members of this board, because we've all had an opportunity to poke and prod it and influence it as we've gone. I think that is something that we should cherish and hold dear to our hearts in TFL. That's point one. Point two, I think the fact that we've now got a longer term, I won't say a long term, but a longer term settlement for our funding in place actually shines through the document. The posture is more confident this time round than we've seen hitherto, and I think when Lord Henry reads it, he might see that coming through as well. And I think that's something, again, to be held dear to our hearts and cherished. I have a couple of sort of nitpicky questions just to prove that we're not going to rubber stamp this and nod it through. One is on non-fare box revenue. We're building a lot there, not just in places, but in things like outdoor and indoor advertising, on the supplementing of our fare box with non-fare box revenue. And our trajectory on advertising in particular looks to buck the trend of the rest of the country. Is that because we're really, really good at it in London, or is it because we've got better pooling power, or what is it? And are we confident that we've got that assurance around delivering that number? And then fourthly and lastly, we've put a lot of investment potentially into bus, and again to try and reverse the dial on bus not delivering as much revenue as we hoped it would. We need to be, and are we going to be, laser-like in evaluating the things that we're doing on bus to make sure that it is turning the dial and getting that fare box and that ridership back where it should be. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter, Tanya and Zoe. Andy.
Thanks. Zoe, thank you for your comments around safety. You know, I say at every board meeting, they aren't real, they aren't just words. You know, I'm passionate about it. We all are. And we have to continue to drive safety performance to really get to a place where nobody is hurt or worse on the transport network. I'm proud of what we've done so far, but there's more to be done. But thank you for that. And the beacon of safety is a really important point. You know, Claire is the strongest advocate of this, but actually some of the things that our people do day in, day out, caring, looking after, not even, in a number of cases, not even users of the network. There are now people who are coming to stations or getting on buses because they realise they will be safe. You know, I won't go into details, but there was an example last week, a horrific example where a member of the public ran and a bus driver let them on the bus because something dreadful had happened and they were cared for. But, you know, we want that to be the case. We actually want to eradicate those things happening in the first place, but it's so, so important. Tanya, thanks for your comments. Not sure we knew where we were going to get to at the end of at the start, but I think we're all very pleased with where we have got to. And again, thank you for your comments. One of the things I'm proudest of is actually the work we have done with our supply chain, the work that we have done with industry and with government to make much more, many more people realise the impact we have on the wider UK economy and jobs. The Hatch report we've done twice now. You know, we spent nearly £12 billion in the UK economy, securing 100,000 jobs across the UK. The much publicised AJ Wells in the Isle of Wight, Alstom in Derby, Siemens in Goole, Steel from Scunthorpe. You can go on and on and on. And actually, again, one of the biggest successes we have is the fact that we had the Chief Executive of Northern Powerhouse supporting our submission for the CSR. That's massive, as well as us supporting them in terms of the investment they need in the wider UK as well. This is not London versus the rest of the country, as Sadiq often says. This is about how we work in partnership. And if we can get investment in TFL, it will secure critical, important jobs for the future that will deliver the capability that other parts of the country are yet ready to accept because their schemes are further behind. So it is so important. We will continue to do that. And the fact we've got a long-term business plan and a long-term capital plan gives us that certainty to enter into those long-term commercial arrangements, which, of course, enables those companies to then invest in their future workforce, their future talent, their apprenticeships, their graduate schemes, and you know, particularly in places like Goole, where Siemens have invested massively in their training school, in partnership with Birmingham University, apprentices in one of the most deprived areas in the east of England, all down to us and the Piccadilly Line contract. And we can go ahead and get to a place where we can place the orders to the Bakerloo line as well, that'll be further investment in that part of the country. So just one example. So we will absolutely continue that drive. And I know Patrick, who's got skin in the game because, as I said, he's done a fantastic job in his Director of Procurement Supply Chain, will continue to drive that forward as CFO as well. And then, Peter, thank you. Thank you for the comments around collaboration. This has been, thank you again for the engagement we've had from all of you. I'll ask, it might be a combination of Patrick or Alex to talk about, or Rachel to talk about the advertising side of the things and the non-revenue, and also how we'll make sure we track the investment decisions that we're going to make, whether it's on buses or anything else as well. So, Rachel, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so just on advertising income, Peter, I actually do think, and Alex will come in as well, I do think we have every possibility of bucking trends in advertising. And I don't think that just because of the success we're seeing now. One of the things when an organisation has been 25 years in the making is that year on year you keep seeing how to integrate our thinking more, how to integrate our customer offer more. And advertising is a great place where that's what we've done, I think, with the new contracts, is we've seen beyond, oh, it's a London Underground screen or it's a poster on a bus shelter. And we've really reimagined, to coin a phrase, actually what is the customer experience we're trying to create. When you put that together with data and the 4G, 5G network and the way that the industry is really hungry for captive audiences who they can kind of influence in the here and now, I think we've got some really precious ingredients. So we must be really ambitious because I think we've got the potential here. Alex?
Do you want to just talk about how will investment decisions and evaluation, Patrick or Rachel?
So, I mean, again, I'll defer to Alex on this, sorry. I think the evaluation of the investment decisions is something that we are strong in some places. The Elizabeth line evaluations probably are the gold standard, but that was such a big investment that obviously it's justified the investment in tracking the jobs, the homes, etc. I think more broadly across the portfolio, Alex and his kind of sponsorship team have plans to keep strengthening our ability to do that.
Yeah, I think your question was mainly about bus, wasn't it, really? And I think that is a mode that we discuss as an ExCo more than any other. And I think we've got a good understanding about how trip patterns and travel patterns have changed and also why they've changed. I think the challenge now going forward is to make sure we deliver on the interventions that we've got in this plan and that they do genuinely stimulate ridership and income that goes with that. And a good example of that, we recently announced 3 partnerships with boroughs for better bus partnerships, and we're going through the kind of the baseline evaluation about where they are now, and so we can understand the kind of baseline and then track it, what is happening with the intervention afterwards. Because if that works, we want to do more of that with other boroughs, really. So it's a very fair question there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Colin. Just to say, Peter, the issue of bus decline in congested cities is a phenomenon you're seeing across the globe. We subsidise our buses because it's a public service to the tune north of £1.3 billion. And you're right, we've got to think about how we can reverse that decline. And the team's really been lateral in how it thinks in relation to doing just that. A couple of things just to say also in relation to the link point about revenue streams. I think the team that used to work with TFL 20 years ago is very different in skill set to the one now, for the simple reason we've got to diversify building homes now. Advertising plays a different role. We can't rely upon an operating grant from the government to fill the black hole or raise fares at huge levels to try and fill the black hole. But that's why we need the support of the board with other skill sets to try and advise us to just be dexterous. Andy, I'm both excited and nervous at the Rail Minister reading this business plan. He'll recognise the headwinds we face are nothing like the headwinds he faced when he was a commissioner. But I'm slightly worried he'll be envious at how brilliant this is compared to the one he prepared 10 years or so ago and the years preceding that. And so I'm worried he may punish us with his envy by not being as generous. So be very careful in giving him the business plan. We're asked as a board, though, to note the paper, approve the draft TFL 26 business plan attached to Appendix 1, and authorise the Chief Finance Officer to make any minor presidential amendments to the 2026 TFL business plan before it is published as a final version on the TFL website. Is that agreed? Thanks, colleague. And I just, Andy, pass on the thanks colleague said to the large members of the team that got us to where we are today.
Will do.
Thanks, Andy. The next item on the agenda is the Statutory Chief Finance Officer appointments, and that's one for Andrea.
Thank you, Chair. So under the Greater London Authority Act, we are required, well, the GLA and each functional body, which includes TFL, is required to appoint an appropriately qualified person to act as the statutory CFO. That post holder must be suitably qualified professional accountant, and under our standing orders, the appointment and removal of the statutory CFO is a matter reserved to the board, and that includes any alternates. So the paper sets out that Patrick is the current statutory CFO, as well as becoming the managing CFO on Rachel's retirement. He will remain in that role, but with the two alternates having left and about to leave, the board is asked to approve two deputies to act when Patrick is absent or otherwise not here. So their names have been set out in a paper on part 2 of the agenda, and members are asked to indicate their agreement to those names, and then the chair will say those names in public following your indication of agreement. I would just also say that whilst we'll be having one statutory and managing CFO, we will retain, and the paper sets this out, dual approval of key Treasury management matters, as we have already, and we'll be seeking approval from the Finance Committee at its next meeting to make some updates to that to reflect the changes. But happy to take any comments.
Thanks, Andrew. It's important that Andrew explained that as well for obvious reasons. The written papers in pages 179 to 182 of the pack. Any questions? Okay, we're asked as a board to note the paper and the exempt supplementary information on part 2 of the agenda and authorise Pridesh Patel, Group Finance Director, and Rachel Sherry, Capital Finance Director, to undertake the Statutory Chief Finance Officer CFO responsibilities if the Statutory CFO is unavailable, and authorise any of the Commissioner, Chief People Officer and the General Counsel to take any steps necessary or consequential to implement the matters approved above. Is that agreed? Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, and Andrew, thanks for explaining that as well. We now move on to the various panels and committees that have met since the last time, and I'll ask the respective chairs, if they're here, to introduce the item, if that's okay. The first one is a report of the meeting of the Customer Sustainability and Operations Panel, and that's Mari.
Thank you very much. Just briefly, the CISO panel looked at progress on equity in motion, our Green Knowledge Programme, the annual report on sustainability disclosures, and the Quarter 2 performance and risk reports. Just going to pull out a couple of things from those. One, which I just thought was really showed our commitment and the work that we've been doing on the Green Knowledge Programme, is that we now have 6,700 colleagues who've undertaken carbon literacy training since 2022. And I think that is an amazing achievement. And only really the beginning of the process as more people will undertake that training. We also looked at some very practical issues in relation to the Q2 performance, and we were looking particularly at bus curtailment and the impact that could have on vulnerable customers. And we've consequently received from some really reassuring and detailed information about the training that's given to drivers and the advice that's provided to ensure that vulnerable customers are really well supported if there has to be a bus curtailment. So a really interesting meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mari. Any questions or comments to Mari as the chair of that panel? Okay, we're asked to note that report. Is that agreed? Thanks, colleagues. The next one is the meeting of the Land and Property Committee, and that's Anurag. Anurag.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the Land and Property Committee met And I must say it goes from strength to strength. Places for London is doing an amazing job. I think a lot of their work was referenced in the Commissioner's report as well. I won't go through everything that we discussed, but want to pull out two things in particular. The Places for London and the Land and Property Committee did consider the officers' plan and the living plan, and these are excellent pieces of work for those who may not have had time to fully read them. They bring together a very well-developed, comprehensive, joined-up thinking about how best to develop all the sites we have for offices as well as for living spaces. And I'm really looking forward to Places for London actually delivering on those plans. And with that, I'll hand it over. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions or comments to Anurag? If not, we're asked to note that report. Is that agreed? Thank you. The next item is the meeting of the Programmes and Investment Committee. Peter.
Oops. Thank you, Chair. Firstly, a comment of thanks to my Vice Chair, Arthur, who chaired in my absence at fairly short notice. So thank you very much for that. The committee took assurance on the progress on the PIC line upgrade, on the Safe and Healthy Streets annual plan, an important item, and the particularly important item on the closure of the programme, even though we've already opened it, but closure of the programme on Silvertown Tunnel. I think it was really good to see, because I actually watched it back. He was quite a good chair, actually, by the way. I might just stand down from it. It was really good to see a closure of a very successful programme and the lessons learned there, as opposed to often lessons learned from not such successful programmes. So good assurance from the committee there. Thank you.
And the Commissioner would remind me to say under budget and on time. Otherwise, I get told off by the team, Stuart. Don't worry, I've got it in there. Okay, we're asked as a board to note the report. Is it agreed? Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, Arthur. A report of the Finance Committee. Mike. Thanks. Any questions for Mike? If there aren't any, we're asked as a board to note the report. Is that agreed? Okay, the next item is any other business the Chair considers urgent. There's none from me. And the final item is the date of the next meeting, which is Wednesday, the 18th of March. Thank you all very much. Thanks.